time, weather, and... Always! Case
Hey, rock and rollers, you're listening to KZMB. It's the Friday Night Lovers Lounge, so pick up the phone and dial 666-1313. Our request lines are open.
Halloween, this is Halloween, this is Halloween.
Welcome to Big Bill's Bullshit Bonanza with your host, the great value action Bronson himself, Big Bill.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Big Bill's Bullshit Bonanza. This is the Halloween episode. I'm going to make this quick, just a little housekeeping, and you may hear kids in the background because I'm just doing this now. I'm not waiting. So I did send out a questionnaire. Only 2 people responded. I'm not worried about it. But to those 2 people, I do thank you for responding and sending back your answers. And maybe I'll get around to using them sometime. But this episode is a long-form interview with a good buddy of mine. We're gonna call him Joe. Okay, so you'll hear Joe throughout it, and that's what we're gonna call him. He was raised in a cult. Now this meanders. It goes off the rails. We talk about other shit. Most importantly, we lost a whole hour of recording. There was some great conversation we had that you guys will never hear, but I got to experience it. So did my buddy. So we're happy about that. And I'm not going to lie to you. What you're going to hear is pretty raw. I'm not going to go through and listen to the whole It's long, guys. It's a 2 hour and 49 minute interview that you get, and it cuts off. So wherever it cuts off, that's it. That's the end. I tried to listen to it, and I know that we didn't get to everything I wanted to. Well, not everything I wanted to. We talked a lot about what he wanted to, and then we just kind of, meandered and got in some other shit. But the further we went, the deeper it got, and there was some wild shit. And I ended up asking him the Halloween questions, and did that, and we lost it. That shit's gone. So what you're gonna hear is raw. We did it. This is the way I want the podcast to go. The long-form interviews, the meandering, just good conversation on a relevant topic. We just kind of stay, we come back and forth to it. It stays close to home base, but like I said, it wanders. We were just having a conversation. It was very organic. We were just talking. And that's what I want. I do have another one, another long-form interview lined up. I'm going to have to, get with the guy and let him know exactly what to expect. But I think people will like that. It's a bigger name, in statewide. I don't know how national he is, but that'll come out when it comes out. I'll get in touch with him. But I'm kind of doing it. I don't have the mixer yet. I'm doing this a different way right now, but I wanted to go ahead and start doing it. And I said, fuck it, work with what you got. So this is the housekeeping. Everybody, if you didn't know, there is a email address now, bigbillsbullshit@yahoo.com. You can email me anything you want there. You want to send a letter of encouragement. Give me just one moment. I'm being dadded. And I'm back. Yeah, I had to take care of some dad issues there. Had to be a dad for a second. I don't remember what the fuck I was saying. Oh, yeah. Whatever you want to send. BigBillsBullshit@yahoo.com. That is the email address for the show. I said I'd set one up. I'm pretty sure there's a Twitter, Big Bill's Bullshit or Big Bill's BS. Sometimes it doesn't let you say bullshit. The Facebook page is up. I don't know what the fuck else you want. There's an Instagram. Please, to my peeps out there listening, interact with the show. Interact. Talk to me. If you want me to tell a ridiculous story, write it down. Email the shit to me. I will read your ridiculous story. Questions, comments, concerns. Do you want advice about something? Do you need me to tell you whether what you did last night was homosexual or not? I'll tell you. I'll let you know. I'll be honest with you. Probably not. You know, who knows? Maybe it is. You know, does one gay act make you gay? I mean, does eating a piece of broccoli make you a vegan? You know what I'm saying? Like, let's talk about it. Anyways, this is the Halloween episode. I know I've only been doing them monthly, and that's going to stick for a little bit. School ends in November, and I'll be a little bit freer to do this. I am trying to find, relevant work, though, so we'll see what that brings on. But, yep, that's the end of it. You got the socials. There's also a Discord channel. If you want to be involved in that, which is where I did the interview on Discord, because that's how it can be done. So if you want to be a part of that, and then also I'm thinking if we get enough people in there, we can have a full-on discussion. Just several of us hop in the Discord, get on the streaming thing, start talking and recording, and that can be an episode. It'll just be called The Hangout. It'll be a hangout episode. I'm cool with that. That's an easy one to do. All I got to do is record it and fucking import it and then put it on the shit. So if anyone's interested in that, fucking email me. I will send you the Discord server link, which only lasts for a little while, so you have to join when you get it. But just get at me. Let me know if you want to do a hangout. You want to have episodes, that are the supplemental episodes. Just call it a hangout episode, a chill talk. You know what I mean? I'm not here on Patreon. I'm not asking for your money to do this. Let's just hang out. Let's just talk. Let's just have a conversation and record it and put it out there for the world to hear what the fuck we talk about. So yeah, that's the housekeeping. That's all I'm going to talk for now, because this interview is very long. And it just cuts off. So when it cuts off, I'm sorry, that's it. I may go to the other side and be like, so that was it? Sorry about that. Okay, bye. Who knows? But anyways, this is Joe, who was raised in a cult. So here you go. Recording. All right. And we're recording. So,
all right.
Holy shit, there's so many kittens out here, too. Jesus criminy.
It's a time of year, bro.
Ow, fuck off. That's great. I've got the kitten's going to be scratching my leg up the whole time. So that's going to be fun. So today we're going to talk about your, and real quick before we get into it, because, I just call you Joe. Is it okay to call you Joe, just not use your last name?
Yeah, Joe's fine.
Okay, because Joe sounds generic anyways. I can always be like, let's call him Joe.
We'll call this guy Joe here. Yeah,
we're just gonna call him Joe. Just don't worry about it. This is what we're gonna call him. So, okay, so I got Joe here, and he's gonna be talking to us today about his life growing up in a cult.
Yes, so unorthodox.
Well, that makes sense to say it's unorthodox, and I kind of wonder how unorthodox it actually was. So, in the immortal words of the Mad Hatter, start at the beginning, and when you get to the end, stop.
All right. Well,
and I'll probably like interject and interrupt and shit. So, yeah, man, just let's go, let it flow.
Yeah. So my father, he was a pastor. He was a pastor before I was born. He started when he was, I think he was 12 years old when he first started pastoring. He had a little church down in Bidwell, Ohio, and it all started off, Southern Baptist. That was kind of what a lot of the family was, which, they had the speaking in tongues and all that kind of stuff was part of it, because they also had that Pentecostal aspect to it. So the kind of just religious faith was based around old Baptist Pentecostal faith. But where you kind of start getting cult-like was they were under a particular leader or end-time prophet who started this whole kind of offshoot of the Southern Baptist Church, and his name was William Branham. And I don't know, have you ever heard of him before?
I'm sitting there thinking, like, I feel like I've heard of that name. I don't know why I would have.
He was very, very famous, actually. He kind of, the like post-World War II faith healing revival that kind of took America and the world by storm.
Oh, yeah.
By his contemporaries, he's usually referred to as kind of like the father of that kicked that movement off.
Okay. So it was a Southern Baptist offshoot is what happened. Okay. And that was your father was a pastor of that particular sect of Southern Baptist?
Yeah. If you could describe it as that kind of like sect of Southern Baptist. Had a lot of Pentecostal influence.
Which there is fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And then of course there was a lot of William Branham's own doctrine that got put into that, because his followers believed that he passed down a spoken word gospel, wasn't written. So what he would say would be just as was valuable in the Bible, which you don't normally have that with most churches.
Right.
So he had a lot of strict kind of behavioral things. You wouldn't smoke, wouldn't drink. Women wore skirts, had long hair, that kind of stuff. Men always wore pants. One thing that was kind of odd growing up, I always recall whenever my father, because at a certain point in time, he decided to be an evangelist and gave up his own church, and we traveled the country to these churches. And
wait,
some of them,
you were a part of that? You traveled the country doing this?
Yeah, yeah.
Wild.
I was.
Do you guys live in like a camper or something, or like?
He would go from home and he would travel out from there. Now, sometimes he'd fly and we'd stay home with our grandmother. But if it was within driving distance, we'd travel with him. Now, we were homeschooled. I was homeschooled till I was in high school almost.
Okay. That would I could say like, well, that's what, and I need to go ahead and say, like, Joe, we've known each other for a good 6 years maybe now.
Yeah, 6 years, I'd say.
So, and this is something that I've not known about you at all. I didn't know this at all there. So I could, the whole trope about homeschool kids is, oh, that's why you're so weird. But you're not. You're not a weird guy. You're very well rounded. I guess you're a little weird about chess, but
my mother. It was funny because she had some. We were very set off from the world. We weren't allowed to listen to any kind of secular music or anything like that. But my mom did have some interests that kind of extended out past that. Like, she was into like superheroes, loved Superman. She was like, she liked boxing, so she got me into boxing when I was younger.
Now that is funny. Like, no, I'm wearing skirts, no secular music, but go beat the shit out of each other, boys.
Yeah. But Sugar Ray Leonard's got it going on.
Yeah.
That's that was the times, so. But yeah, so we would do that type of stuff, and like I said, I remember when we were traveling on occasion, preachers, they'd put us up in motels, and those motels would have like swimming pools, and we'd go down there and we'd go swimming, but we always swam completely fully clothed.
I did too, but like, I was just because I was very self-conscious and
I remember my dad swimming around
in
his like blue
fucking
jeans
damn
and t-shirt.
This little motherfucking cat just bit my toe.
It's that time of year, man.
Jesus Christ.
Cats and spiders.
Fuck them, dude. I don't like either one of them. Right now, I think I prefer spiders. Little motherfucker.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's spray down the house.
No, it's not.
Yeah. So a lot of kind of just odd things. We always, that's who we was always around, was message people. That's what they refer to it, was the message, like it's a noun, like this last kind of message that came from, and he was supposedly the spiritual embodiment of Elijah, who was supposed to return before the second coming of Christ, and he was supposed to herald that.
the prophet, and is that what you guys called him? Was the prophet?
Yeah, the prophet. Mm-hmm.
Now, was your father the prophet, or was William Branham the prophet?
William Branham was the prophet. My father was just helping to spread his message, which was kind of like all the pastors there. As William Branham was the prophet, and they were just preachers, messengers.
And just for people listening, what years was this? Because you're not an old man. You're what, 34 maybe, something like that. I think.
No, 35. Going to be 36 here in the next couple of months, but. This was between, like I said, they were involved in the Message Church when I was born, so that was 1986, probably 1984 to, my father kind of parted ways with the Message, even or with some of the Message Church. He still pastors, but the kind of teachings of Branham, he doesn't exactly teach as much anymore. I'm not 100% sure because I haven't been to church in a while, but
yeah.
He kind of parted ways with that and teaches more of a more kind of rounded Pentecostal message. But all the way up until I was probably 15, 16 years old, we did the
So we're
traveling
talking
thing.
like you're 2000, 2001. So all through the 90s, you were, your father, your family was traveling cult, basically.
Yep. Yeah, from church to church and stuff like that. And it was the whole kind of background of it. It's very interesting because we have these stories about this prophet. I remember we had a coloring book that had all his stories and all the things that happened to him. He's a very interesting man. I'll give him that. He had this whole persona that was built around everything that he was supposed to be. Years later, as I kind of started doing some soul searching for myself and kind of trying to explore some of my background, I started looking into it, and it was so funny. It was just I just kind of stopped thinking about it over the years. And that's when at one point in time, I said, you know what, this was a huge part of my life. And I started trying to process all the kind of stuff that happened. And I started reading up about some of the how he was a hoax and some of the stuff that he said and did could be proven as being, hoax and fraud. And I guess there were people during his time, but, you don't get presented with that type of stuff when you're involved in it.
No, they would definitely hide that sort of thing. It's kind of like the media today. We only see what they want us to see. So.
Yeah, exactly. And you start looking at it, and they say, all these because he made a lot of prophecies and performed a lot of miracles, a lot of healings and stuff like that. Did a lot of, like I said, huge tent revivals and stuff. And even to this day, there's some about they sell about 2 million people around the world.
No shit. So
it's
okay,
called
so is William Branham, was he alive when you were a part of this, or is he still?
Actually, William Branham, he died in 1965. It was Christmas Eve, 1965. He died in a car crash, which that obviously his followers at the time truly believed that the next coming year was going to be the return of Christ. The second coming, and they're doomsday people, and so it's every year. It's that it's going to be this year. It's going to be this year. Get yourself ready. Christ is coming back this year. So the whole thing is built upon that Christ is coming back any day now. Very doomsday.
Okay, well, that's pretty much all of it then, isn't it? that's
yeah.
Well, I guess there's some to more, more extent than others, but
you get a lot of influence from that Southern Baptist stuff, and it's really interesting that they.
And it is that, from what I understand, Southern Baptist is very fire and brimstone, and repent ye sinners, for the day of the Lord is upon us, sort of vibes from that.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's weird because the Pentecostals, while they're, most churches are end times to some extent or another because they all believe it's coming. But the Pentecostals are a fun group. They get up and they hoot and holler and dance.
Do you know how the Pentecostal movement started?
I did. I did once. Fuck.
Yeah.
Go ahead, because it's
Right,
been a
right
while.
after there was a big earthquake in San Francisco. I think it was around like 1904. And, back then they didn't have access to any kind of TV, radio, all that kind of stuff. So they believed wholeheartedly that this earthquake, people died and fire started, that this was a true sign at the end times, right?
Yeah.
So you have this huge revival where people start gathering around on Azusa Street down in San Francisco. And I believe it was a black man that was leading this whole big revival. And people gathered from everywhere. And even reporters came to kind of observe some of the stuff that was going on. And I'm telling you, it was a lot of not just people that were Christians, but it had a lot of people that were believed in metaphysical stuff that were there to witches and things like that, psychics and stuff. It was a huge group of people that were spiritualists that got together, and from that was birthed the Pentecostal movement. And even to this day, you'd see it in some of William Branham's teachings, that there was some metaphysical aspects to it, such as belief in your astrology and stuff.
Huh, now that's kind of unique, the astrology being believed in any Christian fashion, because that's, just typically not the case. So that is
I
unique.
remember them actually referencing it when I was a kid. William Branham, he believed in astrology.
That's crazy. So now it was very traditional. You said women wore skirts.
Yep.
That's very apostolic like, right? Where the skirts and all. So this seems to be a mishmash of the wilder branches of Christianity, where he's just like, I like this about it. I like that. I like this traditional aspect. I like hooting and hollering and dancing. I love fire and brimstone. So it's the William Branham Variety Hour.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And he was, it was something else. Like I said, growing up, there was I'd say probably about 10 years there, maybe a little less than that, where we didn't have any kind of television. We didn't have a Christmas tree. Of course, my parents, they would always buy us presents and stuff like that, and we'd celebrate a kind of traditional American Christmas,
So you didn't have Christmas trees? Now, is it because they were of pagan influence or something, or what was the reason for that?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was pagan influence, and it was the same way we weren't allowed to have playing cards in the house.
Because of they could be used for divination?
Yep, because of the divination aspects of it. I remember, like, my great-grandmother, she was, she didn't ascribe to the William Branham stuff, and that was another thing that the rest of my family, like, some of them listened to William Branham's teachings, but they didn't, go to his churches and stuff like that, like we did. They were kind of outside of it. They were Southern Baptists. They liked some of the stuff he was saying, but they didn't buy into, I believe, fully the whole him being the end-time prophet stuff.
Yep.
So it was kind of something for me to process. Was I had all these adults in my life that clearly saw that this was some sort of a cult, and none of them said or did anything about it, to try to talk my parents out of, dragging around the country and stuff like that. But I remember we went to a couple snake handler churches and stuff like that. So there was like some fringe places that we ended up in our travels. It was kind of met a lot of interesting folks.
Snake handlers, that's a wild one, dude. I can't, they'll take up serpents. You know what, guys? Yeah. Sometimes just let it be words.
It could be a metaphor.
Right, yeah. It's more like, this is, okay, look, when you get to heaven, you'll be bulletproof, 10 feet tall and bulletproof. But here on Earth, where shit's dangerous, bro. God, motherfucking cats.
Avoid that snake.
Yeah, avoid the snake. I can't believe they'll take up serpents, and they're like, serpents, what caused it? With Eve. I'm sorry, I'm mocking them. I guess I can mock snake handlers. They're fucking kind of dumb.
Even that's kind of fringe for like everybody. That's kind of on the outside there. But they'd keep mason jars full of, I think it was either cyanide or arsenic or something like that.
I think it's strychnine that they keep.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yep, strychnine. Yep, absolutely. And they had a big jar of it, and they'd take sips from it.
So quick interjection about strychnine. When I was a young warthog, I had aspirations of becoming a famous rapper, and strychnine was going to be my rap name.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
You should
but come
never
on,
have let that dream died.
dude. I'm telling you, like, what a fire name that is, strychnine for a rapper.
Strychnine.
Come on, I
Yeah.
spit
And you can
lethal
spell
bars. You know what I'm saying?
You
Like,
can spell it all kinds of cool ways too.
I did.
Put a number in there.
I did.
Yeah.
It was
yeah.
what was it? STRYK-9. That was
Had to be.
But honestly, the YK would make it like strike. People would think strike. Strike nine.
Yeah.
I would be fighting everybody. Like, strychnine. Fuck. There's no E. There's no E.
Yeah, come on, you guys.
Yeah. But but strychnine is spelled with a Y, like the actual shit.
Yeah.
It's STRYCHNINE. So like, it was holding true until I got to the K. So people would still mispronounce it. They'd still say strychnine.
Yeah,
But,
no, grammatically speaking, you're right. But yeah, most people don't follow them rules, man.
Yeah, no. Most people don't know how to spell shit. Literally shit. They don't know how to spell it. So
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
So you grew up in this, and you were very. It's weird to say very secular because you were very religious, but like you were based on earth in like a heavenly sense here, where you couldn't, like divination was bad and the pagan tree was bad. So it's like everything was very mundane. So, growing up, like you said, you got out at about 15 or so. So when you're hitting your teen years, man, that sucks. The 90s sucked for you, and the 90s were great.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, for real, dude. Because, I mean, we had, like I said, no access to secular stuff. So there was absolutely no secular music. Even when you're talking about, like, the good Christian kind of, like DC Talk and stuff like that was too far for my parents. So
really?
I wasn't allowed to listen to, yep.
What about Carmen? Could you listen to Carmen?
Bro, Carmen was the greatest thing.
Let me tell you, I was deep into Christianity around the same time. So, like, my 5th and 6th grade years, I was so into it. I'd sit and I'd watch the Trinity Broadcasting Network, dude. My family hated it. I was the only fucking one in the house that I'm like, give me all the God you can get. Yeah, TBN was the shit, dude.
I know.
And then they'd have, like, Carmen concerts, and did he sing Awesome God? Because I feel like he did.
I don't know. I think the famous version wasn't him. It was somebody else. But he had a famous Righteous Invasion of Truth that came out. He rapped. I think he was an Italian dude. Like, he had, this like nappy hair, and
he did have that rap thing that was really weird.
Yeah.
He was something else, dude. And I tell you, I used to love watching that.
Came out that met some sort of degree of like, success.
Oh my God, we need to watch that.
He was a boxer. Yeah, he was a boxer or something crazy.
Benny Hinn I used to like watching.
Oh man, Benny Hinn, he put him down, wasn't he?
Dude, he was knocking him out left and right. That dude should have been a heavyweight boxer. That's probably why your mom liked boxing. She was into Benny Hinn and just liked seeing people laid out.
Laying them down for the Lord. It
reminds me of like those fake karate dudes you see on TV where people like attack them and they shrug and it knocks them down. Or
Benny Hinn's using his ki to knock people over.
That's right, dude. He's like, it's all the energy. And wasn't he like Irish or something? He had some accent, I feel.
I think he was Armenian or something like that. Like, he was very.
Why the fuck did I think Irish? Well, I was a kid addicted to Christianity, so.
Yeah. So, you had you were guessing, I'm sure.
I had no idea.
Yeah, no. And I remember him and a guy named Jesse Duplantis. I used to watch him kind of late at night.
Dude, yes.
Remember him? He had this real heavy Southern accent, almost like
he had that slicked back white hair like too.
Yeah.
He
was always very kind of humorous in his.
He was funny. Mm-hmm. I tell you one that. So you might know Jessica's dad. He recently passed in September, but his favorite preacher was Kenneth Copeland. That dude scares the shit out of me.
I know, bro.
He's a fucking demon. There's no way that dude is not a vile creature from another dimension.
Dude, there's a movie that Kenneth Copeland was in, and I saw a clip from it, and it unlocked a memory for me, and I had forgotten. I was like, oh my God, I watched this movie like years ago. Yeah, no, he's wild, man.
He looks like Hoggle. He looks like Hoggle from the Labyrinth.
He looks exactly like Hoggle from the Labyrinth. Like exactly like him.
Exactly. Like, how do you get that? His head is gigantic. It looks like a fucking bobblehead, and it's all the folds and stuff. Like, you think that he's
weird.
He get yeast infection on his forehead with all the folds he's got on there.
I'm telling you, it's like a Shih Tzu. That's what those things are called, or
a Shar-Pei.
A Shar-Pei, that's what it is. Yeah, he's got that Shar-Pei skin going on.
That's how you say Sharpie in French too. That's the French.
Yeah.
That's fancy markers. The Shar-Peis.
Yeah, Shar-Pei.
We're getting way off track of your cult story, but so let's see. The '90s sucked for you. No Dunkaroos.
Yeah. The '90s were crazy. I remember and like I said, like a lot of it was really traumatic because the people in my life that are my influence that are kind of telling me exactly what my worldview should be. You're looking at when the Y2K scare happened, like they were really scared. Like this was for sure a sign of the end times.
Oh, dude, I bet. Like, I didn't even think about that, man. Y2K was bad enough for us people out in the, I'll say the real world. Us people out in the real world were scared of it.
At that point in time, I was completely disconnected from just everything. I was, going into the year 2000. That summer, I was sick with anxiety every single day because I thought it was over. I remember when I was a kid, and this was, probably 1989, 1990.
Okay.
I was probably 3 or 4 years old. 4 years old, I'd say. I remember seeing an ad on TV for tires. The local shop was selling tires. And I remember seeing on TV a tire swing, and man, I wanted a tire swing more than anything. Well, this ad for tires was saying you can purchase these tires now and spend no money for 1 year. Now, I was at that age, even around 4 or 5 years old, so sure that the end of the world was going to happen that I was trying to convince my parents, like, hey, we can get this. I can have a tire swing until it's over. You know what I mean? You guys don't have to pay anything for it.
You don't have to pay. It's like, hey, check it out. They don't even know. They think next year.
Before Christ comes, we're going to call on these tire people until the Lord comes back.
The Lord would be totally fine with us calling these people. You know why? Because they're out in the devil world, so we can trick the devils, teach these devils.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
That's the funniest shit.
I mean, that's funny. Yeah, dude. Like, and I mean, like that.
Sad but funny. That's like.
It's but. That was, kind of my existence. Also, they really believed in really heavy metaphysical things, angels, demons, which Branham really kind of talked a lot about that type of stuff. He had stories where he was visited by angels and where he was visited by, he'd seen demons in people and things like that. And kind of, there was, during that time in the, 1950s, late 1940s, early 1950s and stuff, when they were really kind of bringing that back.
The seances and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then that kind of, that you do see that in the churches too, with they're, I don't know how to describe it. Maybe they're just wanting like a piece of the pie from the Catholic Church or something. So they started casting demons out and stuff, and they used to, so they had that kind of thing going for them. But yeah, they heavily believe that. So I believed that growing up, but at any point in time, I would just walk into the living room and there would be like a demon standing in there. I walked around every corner of my, like for years and years, just completely afraid of the dark and stuff like that. Because these things were real, Yeah,
well, when you're told by, parents and all the, when your authority figures, the people who teach you what the world is about, says, oh yeah, demons are real. They can come up and take over your body. Like legit, I was scared of that too because I don't know what it was. What I was being taught, but I remember being so afraid of demons and being possessed and stuff like that. Maybe it was just, the zeitgeist of the time, because when we were kids, well, I was born in 85, so we were on the tail end of the Satanic Panic, too.
Because
that
grossly adversely affected my life.
Oh, I bet. I bet.
Yeah, absolutely. See, I never. The first time I went trick or treating was when I took my own kids.
Are you fucking serious, bro?
Yeah, didn't go one time. My childhood at all, because they did not do anything during Halloween. That was not a
Not even
that was
recognized.
not a safe time for us.
Don't go out. The demons are out there. I can imagine like your parents looking out the windows and seeing like people dressed up. Where did you guys live? Like in like 1989, 1990. Were you in the same area, the Jackson area, or?
Yeah, yeah. We lived in Oak Hill.
I was
like
never up there.
our whole
Okay.
lives. You know, I mean, we had. Yeah, no. I mean,
Fuck
we had,
Oak Hill. It's so far away. I can be at Walmart, dude, on the fucking Oak Hill side, getting ready of General Tibbetts Way or whatever, and people are like, oh, it's only in Oak Hill. I'm like, I'd rather fucking die. Oak Hill is 94 hours away from Walmart, but people are like, man, it's only like 8 miles. I'm like, you're fucking, are you kidding me, dude?
No, that stretch of 93 is just pure torture.
Why? Why is it so bad?
I don't know.
I don't either.
I think everyone agrees. Everyone agrees.
People who live in Oak Hill fucking hate being in Oak Hill because, you know, it's closer to Gallipolis sometimes, depending on what side you're on. They're
stuck there, and they're still getting out. Yeah. But yeah, so we lived there in Oak Hill. They ended up living, my grandfather, he really helped us out with a house, and we got us a house. And so, yeah, Dad was a pastor. He was worked a job as a shipping foreman out at the company Kim there for a number of years. And then one day while he was moving stuff for the church, he fell out of the back of a truck and damaged his leg in such a way that it was kind of like crippling for the rest of his life.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't work anymore after that. And, you know, we had rough financial years and stuff like that. But he continued to, after that, continue to preach, spread the message. And that was how he really made the bulk of his money, was through preaching.
I mean, it's a good gig. It seems to pay very well.
It is, yeah. That's the good
talking about casting demons out and shit.
Yeah.
Who was the guy on TBN that was the guy who did the demon casting and shit? I was thinking Bob Larson at first, but he wasn't on TBN. He's just famous.
Yeah.
And it was in the same vein as like Benny Hinn, like it, like. God.
Yeah, there was during that time. There were some famous preachers, man. They were laying groundwork for guys like Joel Osteen coming up, and
Joyce Meyer was coming up in that time. Joyce Meyer was a part of that, and she's still going strong.
Her before her plastic surgery.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I was like,
God, who was that guy, man? Like, it's. I've been sitting here thinking about it, like trying to remember, because I can almost remember his face, and it's like it feels like he was look-wise between Jesse Duplantis and Benny Hinn. He was like somehow a baby made by them, and he was the demon guy.
Yeah, they all look. I'm telling you, dude. My dad, he always he was slick, man. He really had the gig down pat for sure. Like, hair combed over perfectly,
nice.
Suits perfect. Dude could rock an organ too. Like, he'd sit down in church, and he grew up in a old black church down on the river. And
oh boy,
yeah.
So he'd get on that organ and just straight sin, wouldn't he? He'd just be. By the time he got done, people are like, "I need saved again."
Absolutely, yeah. We need forgiveness for what we just heard. Yeah, 'cause, I mean, he'd kick the loafers off, man, and start rocking that Hammond B3, you know.
Mm-hmm. I'd love to hear. I love organ music, dude. Like, so
he's good.
That'd be rad.
He's a talented musician. My mother, she's a talented musician. Both of them, growing up in church, and that's one of the things that with church that I always kind of saw was there was a chance, and you see it. Singers always talk about, I sang in church, growing up, or I was
always,
playing in church when I was younger. So, and that's the thing. I mean, churches, they have there's that sense of community, and that is a place where kids go and they learn how to play music. Is in church, and they have you may not have the money to be able to afford an organ or a piano or a guitar or a bass or whatever.
The church does.
A lot of churches have them. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you get together So, that's one thing is the community. The church has got this community that actually seems to help some individuals thrive that are able to, have good leaders within it, I think.
Yeah, you know me. There was a time period in my life after, dude, 5th, 6th grade, I was addicted to Christianity, given my allowance, all that stuff. By the time I hit 7th grade, I went in 7th grade, I was into, LaVey, Satanism, and voodoo and black magic. My mom was like, no. Here's Wicca. Check out Wicca. But I was still very into LaVey and Satanism. Yeah. But Wicca was my thing.
From 30% off that there.
Yeah, she was like, talk about 25% off out there, Squirrely Dan.
Yeah. Take it easy.
And
that Satanist shit.
So she tried to get me to calm down on that, but oh fuck, I totally lost what I was gonna say. Wow, that thought really went away. Music. Right and, yeah. What? Oh! I was very anti-Christian. I had almost an animosity, a hatred, or I was that fedora-wearing atheist. You're a Christian. How funny. So you believe in this fairy guy, do you? I was that kind of guy, right? But now, I'm older. I'm not a Christian. I'm not exactly pro-Christian, but I am pro people doing. Yeah, I'm pro people doing what works for them, and if, and I'm also I'm to a point where I'm not an atheist anymore. I don't, the world's huge. It's so diverse. The cosmos is huge.
My understanding has, especially over the past couple of years, it has grown to include almost something like you'd describe as a perennial philosophy that all religions are basically just a cultural expression of an understanding of God. So you've got this whole universe that expresses itself through the human consciousness, and based around cultures, they just kind of develop these stories and things. So,
and who's to say that they're not just one big pie in the sky, a whole, they're up there just having a party, all these gods and stuff, but whatever the Abrahamic God's name is, he's you know what, I'm gonna carve me out a little section over here that's just mine. It's all me. And that could be true just as much as our gods are true to us. So it's a thing where I no longer feel like anybody's gods are wrong. It's just they might not be right for me.
I believe there are some things that for people there are universal truths, and I believe everyone really wants the same thing, right?
Yeah, community and to feel like there's something else out there.
Yeah.
So that when we die, we see our loved ones again. That's really what everyone wants. No, there's even the most hardcore atheist would love to. And it's the most hardcore atheists, the real ones. It's more of a can't believe. I just can't do it, and I know because that's how I felt. And it's I would love to feel like when I die, I get to go see my brothers or my mom or whatever. Whoever it is you're missing, you want to see them again. I think that and community are the two universal truths for everybody to where everybody wants
exactly. that. Exactly. Everyone wants to love and be loved and to give and receive. I believe fully in a gifting cycle.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that develops relationships between people and things. But and all these types of things you can see. You look at religions around the world. You have the golden rule that is prevalent in all of them. That is basically treat other people how you would like to be treated yourself, which is kind of supposed to solve all the world's ills. And I suppose it would if that was how people actually behaved. But ultimately they all kind of just religions kind of come back to that, but with different kind of cultural differences. And now it's kind of religion has turned into a way of, I believe, excluding people sometimes.
It very much feels that way. So, I'll go ahead and out us here. Joe and I are both heathens. And for a long while, I was very folkish. And And I didn't mean it to be exclusionary, but then I started looking at it, and it is. By its very nature, it is. I actually listened to, I think I sent you that podcast today, Asatru Academics, and
yeah, I saw that.
She laid out a pretty good argument for it, or against it. Not really against it, but like why it's wrong. And
you mean the focus?
Yeah, focus. Yeah, to be focused. Now, there's also the Yarn-Saxa scale, which goes from like the least, because focus can be, and I don't like doing this, but it can definitely be. It can be racist, but it's not inherently racist, but it definitely borders on that.
It's easy. Yeah, exactly.
It's easy to get there. Yeah.
It's pretty. It is because you're looking at it and you're speaking focus. You're looking at it, and there's a kind of a belief that your bloodline helps to connect you to the past and connect you to your gods and things, right?
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people take that and they, use it strictly for exclusionary purposes instead of as a means for them to kind of explore that route within their own faith. Which, I mean, that's perfectly acceptable. I went through that for a long time. That your blood has connects you to some sort of past or something like that. But
and that's the Yarn-Saxa is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or something like that, and or maybe even 7. Whereas 3 and 4 are the middle way, and they're similar to each other, but 3 is so like 1 is like the least focused, the least aka racist, and then 6 is Hitler. And I was
something that I've always good.
Yeah, I was examining it, and I was like, the 3 to 4 range feels like that's what everybody actually is. Wherein, especially if it's because the focus thing, like I can't help but to think that like blood does matter because ancestry matters, and the ethnics matter, where people came from and where the religion came from. However, I'm not a god. That's not for me to interpret. So how the fuck am I supposed to know?
This is something that I kind of thought about, and I like to do exercises where I kind of sit and think in a more philosophical way to try to explore. And this is something that I kind of came about and thought about. You look at it as religion as a culture's way of expressing the particular truth that there is something that's greater than ourselves, being the universe. And we basically speak in terms of gods and stuff like that to describe what we're experiencing. So you look at religion and it being a culture's ultimate means of expressing the truth of the universe.
Yeah.
I do not believe that a culture or a religion that's developed within a culture isolated, which a lot of religions, they developed because of themselves, from, the Norse religions or whatever. They developed, and I don't believe the people in the beginning that developed these religions to be ways of expressing ultimate truths intended for people to not everyone to believe that. The people that said this Thor is an ultimate and mighty god, they said that, and they intended it in the beginning for every human being to believe that.
Right,
that is their faith, right?
Yeah, so they're not up there like, these are our gods, but only ours, and you can't have them. Who are you talking about?
These are our gods, and they should be yours, and we're going to fight you and kill you to use
right? Yeah. You better fucking believe.
That was in the beginning, yeah, and like you should do the things that we do. Your holidays will be our holidays now, and we've conquered you, and this is how it should be. So you look at it and you go, why now is it that no, you can't do this, no, you can't practice this, and you see it a lot. Wiccans catch a lot of shit because they talk about smudging, they get cultural appropriation jabs at them from Native American cultures and stuff, because they do still glean a lot of religious aspects from other faiths, other religions. And
they're just like, what? If it feels good, do it. They're very hippie.
Yeah, they're like, I'm going to worship Apollo today. Like it's a nice sunny day out. Apollo's getting it. But
yeah, it's a fucking free for all up in there. But and I think I see what you're getting at there. Like, Why does it matter what anyone else? So and let's go the focus route.
Yep.
If you feel right that white's only white blood, white gods, I've heard that so many times, right? Why?
Yeah.
Why though? If you feel like your gods get energy from and receive gifts and energy from human interaction, you are limiting the gods.
Yes.
Because by you saying this, we haven't been told that. It's not in the lore anywhere. It has no historical context to say absolutely that. Now, and you could say
every holy book.
Yeah.
Every holy book in the world. They were written for everybody because they wanted everyone to believe this. This was their truth, and they tried to express it to every human being in the world. And I mean, every holy book, like the Rig Veda, like the Hindu kind of Bible, if you want to borrow the phrase. But
or the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran,
any of them.
Yeah.
And so it's supposed to be a truth that's universal for all human beings. And but somewhere along the line, that turned out to not be the thing. And I think when that happened was when people stopped believing in their gods, and it turned into just a cultural thing. See, I think that's the rub there. Is these faiths that people no longer believe in their gods, and it's just an expression of their culture.
Also, it's very Christian. It is a very Christian way of thinking because they, there's a hierarchy, definitely. The Pope was the grand poobah of everything, even above kings. Yeah. So they have a superiority complex. And
definitely, and you go back to talking about the message and stuff like that. The Catholic Church is the Antichrist.
Oh, really?
As described by the Book of Revelations, the woman that sits upon the dragon representing power, the woman representing church. She's clad in because all these kinds of certain things were used as metaphors all the time, kind of like how kennings were used. Certain like the lore and stuff of old Scandinavian.
Right.
So they would say those types of things, and as a metaphor.
Yeah, and then so to the Message Church, which is that what they called themselves, the Message Church? Yeah.
The message, the what was talked about in the Book of Revelations as being the Antichrist, the Catholic Church, and ultimately the Pope being the grand poobah of the whole thing. He was 666 being the number of the man, which if you actually look at it, what was being written 666 was a reference to, I believe, some sort of Roman emperor or something like that of the time. See, the Book of Revelations is a metaphor for what was happening in the world at the time it was written, and it's been taken and misconstrued by Christian churches ever since the beginning. Like, there is nothing that's true about church history, Christian history, that is portrayed in churches these days. The Catholic Church probably the closest.
It's the original. It's the original Christian church, so they would have the closest.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like. Because hold on, I've just been notified of something on the Discords.
Okay.
I don't know where at. Not in here. Okay. It was on a different one. You want to look at the world we're living in right now, and I know you've heard it, the Kali Yuga, the Wolf Age. We're living in Revelations right now. And isn't it kind of weird that, all of these all add up to the same thing after Christianity took over the world? To me, it's honestly, the story of Ragnarok is such a hard thing to, fully, say that was definitely historically correct, but the fact that it's in the Poetic Edda is what really allows it to still be clung to, because that was pre-Christian influence. The Poetic Edda was pre-Christian. The Prose Edda was Snorri's King James version.
Snorri Sturluson, for real. That guy was rewrote basically the Bible for Bible for Vikings. which, you look at it and try to match it. And that's the thing is, they weren't a people that kept a very good written history. So it's hard to tell. And, you got to recreate. And that's the kind of thing about, bringing a religion back, and you look at it, and with tribalist religion, you kind of get to design the rules, get to do what feels right. It's organic, and I believe ultimately that was kind of how it was back in the day.
Yeah, I like how we've kind of segued into talking about our religion, but I'm here for it. So it's kind of nice to have that kind of talk, because you know I've struggled. Like I said, we were part of the same organization, and I've had my issues with the faith of it, and it's like this is what I want, this is what feels right to me. When I practiced out there, it felt like my blood was alive, it's that sort of thing where, how do you do it right? Well, how really, if you're doing it and the intent. I was listening to, you know who J.M. Olofsson is?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So he and Jesse Stillwagon from Midgard Musings, they were talking about intention and purpose. Let me move my mic back a little bit. And, you may intend to, like Jesse Stillwagon was saying that he's like, I was intending to go drum to bring in Winter Nights, and that was how I was going to do it, but I didn't get to. And then JM is like, but what was the purpose behind it? And if you take those two words that seem like they mean the same thing, but they don't. So if your intention is to honor the gods, and what you're doing, the thing you're doing, the purpose for doing that is to honor the gods or the ancestors, or the land whites, then you're doing it right. Yeah. But if it's false intentions, if it is all... And to some extent, all ritual is theater, because it has to be. Your mind has to get into that ritual thing. Yeah. You have to give yourself over to the other side, because we live in a secular world. Religion is removed from us daily, and it is difficult to live a religious life if you're not a Christian. Because, I mean, how many people have you ever heard say, "Oh yeah, he's very religious," and they mean he's a Buddhist? They don't mean that. You say, he's religious means he's a hardcore Christian.
Yeah, there was some comedian at some point in time, I can't remember who he was, but he said, all religious faiths are equal, but you need to go, you need to understand that the Christians won. Yeah, and it was kind of, he was a kid was a Muslim or something like that. They were Muslims or something like that, and as they were kind of teaching them, that the Christians, they get treated just a little bit differently in the world than everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Well, they took it over. Like, that was for sure global domination. Like, the Catholic Church took over the entire world.
And see, that's the thing. If you kind of look at it and you say, okay, the Catholic Church did this, or the Church of England did this, and this type of stuff, what you're saying is, and that doesn't have anything to do with their actual religious faith. It's a move on behalf of the culture. It's a cultural expression. Yeah, and they can use a religion to justify certain things. I've gotten myself so far away from kind of believing in like a set pantheon of gods, and kind of worshiping these expressions and understanding them as. So what I would say is, you ever been in a real good fight where you're fighting somebody and they hit you really, really hard, and that fight or flight kicks in, and this adrenaline rush, and it's very exciting, and it's very in the moment, and your eyes narrow. And you're going through this moment here, and I believe that all moments like that are expressions that when people have, like you're almost in a state of worship at that point in time, worshiping a war god, or and you kind of feel that adrenaline rush. It's almost beyond human. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's like you're drawing from another area.
Yeah, it's something that when you're in the room when a baby's born, you kind of feel this. It's an outside of a normal human experience. I feel the same sensation whenever I go deer hunting and I get to kill a deer. I have this this sensation that is very outside of my normal human experience, which I believe is an expression of a godlike experience, like a deity's there with me when these types of things happen.
Right.
So I have kind of taken to worshiping those kinds of aspects of life. I love a big storm, man. I like to go outside when there's a big storm. Big snowstorm last year that was spread all the way across the United States. It was 80 miles long, had 7 inches of snowfall. I was outside for a good half hour, just like standing underneath this enormous cloud. It was like I was in a cathedral or something like that. So I've taken to, as far as my religious faith goes, and we kind of talked about, it being theater as far as ritual goes. And I believe that as far as talking about, I've been kind of exploring some psychological aspects of it, reading some stuff by like Carl Jung and stuff like that, where you look at your ego, your id, your superego, and your id being, just impulse, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Your superego being, that which you aspire to, which, you kind of look up to, and your ego being the kind of mix between the two.
Yep.
And kind of understanding that what ritual is you're encouraging yourself to take a break between your impulse and where your ego can process what it is that you're wanting to happen. And then you can make those decisions in the future based off of what you should be doing. It's something that I try to do when I control things, like when I want to have a cigarette or something like that, when I want to stop and buy a pack of smokes or something. Sit in the car and tell myself, isn't this funny that your body is sitting here trying to tell you to go in here and do this, and have this conversation with kind of like a higher self, and kind of make fun of the lesser person who can't control this impulse, and it kind of helps me go on. But I believe ritual reinforces these thought processes to interrupt that. And I feel like that's kind of putting into words what's happening there.
Absolutely. It's the psychodrama, as LaVey puts it. The psychodrama, the ritual chamber. Wherever you go to have ritual, you, as a human being, no matter what you're doing, routine is ritual. So if every day you wake up at 5 a.m., well, why? Well, it's just my routine. Yeah, but why? Yeah. Well, I can't function without it. Okay. Well, add a religious aspect to that, and it's now ritual. Yeah. It's the same thing, because that's what we, as animals, humans, thrive on ritual and routine. And when we get to a point where we are trying to be reverent to, I don't want to. I guess I don't want to say supernatural, but like I like metaphysical, because science has proven that. There are sounds that we cannot hear. There are wavelengths of light that we cannot see. So our immediate surroundings, there are things that our animals can see that we cannot.
Yeah, reality itself is wildly different from what we're actually perceiving all the time.
I've got to go plug my fucking computer in. Being out in this cold is killing that battery like crazy, so I got to go. Hopefully I can do it without a wild Magnus appearing. You can ramble on that for a moment while I mute myself and go get set up, so hold on one moment.
Okay, yep. Some of the stuff, like I said, we've been talking about with metaphysical processes, and how one kind of controls those id, ego, superego, controlling your own will, and that's kind of the whole basics of magic working or whatever, is kind of using your will to make things happen in the universe, and nothing happens without somebody's will being involved. There's no such thing as invention or creativity without somebody willing it into existence. So if people are able to do these types of things and gain full control over their will, and I feel like that's important, because a lot of people feel like they have a handle on things, whenever actually you look at it and say you can't even control small minor aspects of your life. You can't help yourself do whatever you need to do, break addiction, or make the best life for yourself. If you're not even able to do that, how do you fully expect to bend the universe to your will if you can't control your own self? Which is, with that understanding going forward, the hard work comes from trying to control yourself, and so that's where I'm at.
Yeah, that's totally an understandable thing. Like the will, and that's part of the ritual thing is pouring your will into stuff, and like
it all seems to be an exercise of controlling yourself.
Yeah, and then you give reverence to something and that's the gift for a gift. The reverence you give, the gift of your will, your energy, and you're expecting certain attributes or qualities or just even favor. And it's the same thing with the Christian's prayer. So we say ritual, and then people in the Christian faith think that they don't have rituals. Well, Mass is definitely a ritual, but prayer is a ritual. Prayer,
baptism, communion, foot washing. That was another big thing. Like we used to do foot washing ceremonies.
What a weird one. That would turn a lot of people off. A lot of people just stopped. They're like, nope, no William Branham for me.
That's enough for me, guys. Thank you so much.
Talking about touching feet.
I would rather go to hell.
Yep. It's like William Branham said, "Oh, you got to wash the feet." Someone's like, "Well, hell for me."
It is. Sorry, sir. What you're promising is not for me.
Yeah,
but so that was like I said. We do foot washing ceremony. We did baptism. We did full immersion baptism, which I guess was apparently important for some reason. They would. We'd always, and I remember there were times we'd go down to the lake, and we would have to break the ice to get people in there to baptize them in the wintertime.
No fucking kidding.
Yep. They'd have to go and break the ice sheet, and so we can go down in there and dunk them real good for the Lord.
Well, when you think that the end of time's coming, it's imminent. At any moment, it's going to happen. Then you can't waste time. You can't wait for spring. Yeah, you gotta go dunk those bastards right now.
Yeah, you had to, and then you had to have it, to get in. If something would happen, God forbid, you'd die on your way for baptism. All that was for naught.
Yeah, they even think that about babies. There are people, and I don't know if the Message Church did, but there are people who feel the same way about like babies, that because of the original sin that they can't get into heaven. So it's like, what a weird,
interesting
thing.
That's an interesting phrase. What is the original sin?
I feel like the way it has been represented to me, the way I understand it, is the fact that you are born of sex. The fact that your birth involved sin, because prior to the tree of knowledge, the fruit of good and evil, whatever, before Eve fucked everything up. They
got to blame it on the woman, didn't they?
Have to.
Subjugation of women was a huge part of it, bro.
Huge,
for real. Not even that,
huge.
like you don't even like understand, like within the message, like that was part of like your training as a man to keep your wife under control.
What?
Oh yeah. No, they were super, and they were racist too. No inter race marriage, no interrace dating, anything like that. That was to be avoided. Women were to be under the husband. That was their place. They didn't allow any kind of women to speak in church, like preach or anything like that.
Yeah, that is kind of, it's weird to hear about in the 90s that happening, because you didn't, it's so weird. You were so out of the 90s. It's so weird.
I went down to this woman's. Completely missed all of it. The music, the politics, all of it. None of it touched me. I went to. There was a lady. She, her and her husband and their kids. They moved into this little shitty trailer down the road from where we lived. And one day, it was during the summertime. We'd like to walk down to get some food from the local dairy bar down there. It was not far from the house, about 3/4 of a mile. So we walked down there and get some food, and we stopped by their house while we were en route. and her husband had padlocked her into the trailer to where her and her kids couldn't get out at all.
Was that a member of the church?
Yeah. Yeah, he's a member of the church.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, I know. And those trailers that catch fire, they're gone in minutes.
Dude, it's so fast.
Yeah, it is. It is so fast.
So this dude, he left and padlocked his wife and kids in the trailer.
Yeah.
That's some serial killer shit, bro.
Yeah, and there was, like I said, it wasn't all like that. But, obviously, some husbands were a little more understanding. But he padlocked her ass into the trailer there, and I remember her talking through the window, and it was all kind of brushed off, almost like with a, oh well, that's crazy, and we went about our business. But now looking back, as the kind of rational adult that I am now, I'd have been like, we're breaking you out of there, then we're going to the police.
Right.
Like, this is a terrible, terrible crime. You could have died from this.
Yeah, now you'd be like, oh, your husband did that. Okay, hey, 911.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I would call 911 before I got her out, just so they could come there and see it.
Yeah, no doubt.
So she couldn't argue us and come to his defense, because that's a terrible problem, and you don't want to victim blame or anything like that, but they don't. A lot of times they don't follow through, and a lot of bad things happen.
Yeah, they'll call. He's got a gun and threatened to kill me. Cops get there, like, don't you take Daryl.
Yeah, no, yeah, them bastards are taking Daddy.
Yeah, look at him, Bubby. They're taking Daddy from you. It's like, Mom, didn't you call the cop? Don't you talk to me like that.
Yeah, don't you back talk me, you little shit.
Smack. Get yourself back in that room. I'm going to padlock you in there.
Exactly.
Just like your daddy taught me.
I was fortunate for, my father. He was pretty level-headed. We got spanked, but it wasn't anything that I would call abusive as far as that goes. Now, I believe there was something that was abusive about the kind of religious trauma aspect of it.
So, being that this was being that this was a cult, the one cult thing that always happens you haven't mentioned is that the prophet took all the women for himself and it was a big sex thing. Was was that present in this, or
that was not? He seemed to, at least to the general public, and I've not heard any kind of reference since, because like I said, I've done research into it since then to try to understand it myself, because I never looked at it through the lens of an adult. I never had the chance to sit and kind of look at it, compare it to my own life experiences, and go, well, this is complete bullshit. By the time I had stopped believing in that, or stopped, I guess, kind of thinking about it as much as I did, it just kind of faded away into the background. So I was like, man, I remember like having coloring books of this man,
Yeah.
And so I started doing some research, and some memories started kind of flooding back, and started putting pieces together to look at it all. But yeah, it is still the message church is still a prevalent thing. It is particularly prevalent in Africa.
Shit, they have a website, dude. I'm just looking it up. There's Branham.org. Voice of God Recordings.
Voice of God Recordings in Jeffersonville, Indiana. We used to take these pilgrimages to Jeffersonville, Indiana. That's where William Branham was based out of. And we would travel there, and he's got the Voice of God, the church that's there. I remember going to this church, and where William Branham's church was, and man, it was just this whole kind of like reverent thing. And he's got this really a grave that's a pyramid shape. And that was another kind of metaphysical thing that he believed in, that there was something to pyramids. But we would go to Jeffersonville, Indiana. We'd go to the Voice of God recording studios, and we'd go in there, and they'd show us. They'd all, of course, always give us a tour and stuff like that, and we'd get to see all of William Branham stuff. But they have a real setup, man. I mean, like, we're talking millions of books, and they publish all his sermons on paper. Millions of books and recordings get sent out every year, still to this day.
I can see it. You can buy the Cub Corner magazine for kids. This is wild, dude. It's international. Yeah, you said it's big in Africa?
Yeah, huge in Africa.
That's terrible.
Yeah, huge in Africa. See, William Branham, he went, he did a huge tour. Like I said, he was, a rock star. He went to England and Africa and explored kind of overseas a lot. Did a bunch of big crusades, I guess you could call them.
Mm-hmm.
Did a bunch of crusades overseas, and yeah, he was huge there for a while. And like I said, now you look back at it and see that every single person that he prayed for healing that was supposedly healed in his sermon came back to say, once interviewed, that they weren't really healed, and some of them actually ended up dying some short time after his alleged healings. Just a bunch of things like that you kind of find start coming to light. And then, now 35-year-old me looks at it and goes, yeah, well, no bullshit. I mean,
right.
That's, yeah. But at the time, the adults in your life were saying, this is what's happening,
Yeah. 6-year-old you's like, oh my goodness, he's a superhero. And then you get up there and like, oh, it wasn't true? Oh, big fucking shock that is.
Yeah, and for real, like he was a superhero, man, and he always portrayed, and it's funny because like all the Message people had this same kind of worldview as far as stuff went. They were very masculine. I wouldn't say in like a real kind of like toxic way, but they were all masculine. They all liked hunting, fishing, that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. So William Branham tells this tale that when he was, when he was a kid, his father died when he was young, and him and his brother, they had to hunt, trap, and fish just to feed their family for all these years and stuff. When in actuality, his father didn't die until he was like 19 years old, and he moved to Jeffersonville, Indiana when he was like 6, which at the time, a lot of people don't know this, but Jeffersonville, Indiana was referred to as Little Chicago because it was a huge gambling town. There was the KKK was heavily involved there. They did a lot of, it was during Prohibition era. Yeah. So they did a lot of stuff that was moonshine running and stuff. And Branham, his dad ended up getting arrested or something like that and put in jail for running shine. And when Branham was sick, when he was younger, he got sick with I can't remember exactly what it was, but he was hospitalized and his family couldn't afford the bills. So the actual local Ku Klux Klan stepped in and fitted the bill for him, and he never forgot that. And the man ended up having ties to the KKK that no one ever really kind of talked about. And I even like remember him like this being referenced on rare occasion that, in one of his sermons, he talks about the Ku Klux Klan.
So, like, as you were saying that, I was just on his Wikipedia, and I was just about to talk about that, and you started saying how he got sick. He was 14. It was a firearm incident. He was shot in both legs at age of 14.
That's what it was. He was shot. Yeah.
So, later in life, as late as 1963, he's quoted as saying, "The Ku Klux Klan paid the hospital for me. I can never forget them. See, no matter what they do or what, there is something, and that stays with me." Well, it sounded like listening to Joe Biden there for a second.
Yeah, okay. Listen, you have to like, you can get online and listen to this man's sermons, and the way he talks is a very interesting way. He is a very captivating speaker, though reading it's difficult because he has a weird cadence to his voice. Yeah. So you have to kind of catch the pauses and stuff just right, But he tells his tale, these stories of hunting, fishing, trapping, and he grows up and he moves out west, which he actually did. He moved out west and lived there for a while. He was a hunter and a guide, and so he had this whole kind of, I don't know, Theodore Roosevelt thing going for him, right? Mm-hmm. And so that was something that, when I was growing up, that was the big appeal for me. Oh, I wanted to hunt. I wanted to fish. I wanted to do these types of things because William Branham done them, and he was, supposedly very good at these things. And he did. He traveled all over the world. And, like, here's the thing. Like, one of the big things was men can't wear shorts, right? Because he would say that's what homosexuals would do.
Okay.
Homosexuals wear shorts. That's his sissies was the word he used, but that's what he was he was referring to. And there were pictures of him, on safari in Africa, and dude would be rocking shorts, and like seeing these things, and you're just like, it's so crazy that he lived this kind of like life outside of this incredible persona that everyone believed. And all you have to do is just look, just even the slightest little bit, to see through the kind of fog and stuff that he was laying in front of everybody.
So I'm actually here. Let me see if I can pull one of these up. Let's see here. Let's go with Perseverance. It's a great song by Hatebreed. Let's see if we can hear his speech in there. Let's see if I got this. When is it going to play? This is one that was done in Phoenix. So.
Greetings to this fine audience here tonight. Sister Webster and Brother Green.
I don't know if you can hear it.
All the audience, the members of
I
this
can't hear it.
assembly.
Okay,
it's always a privilege for me to come to the house.
You know what?
Yeah, I can't.
Hold on, actually, let's see here. Okay, so if you view my screen, can you do that? I just shared my screen out.
See.
I know you're on your phone, so I don't know if you can do that or not.
Let's see. That's cool.
I know you lost
Still
your
there,
computer.
Rodney?
Yeah, I'm with it. Did you ever get your computer fixed or replaced? No, I may have lost you.
House of the Lord. And then tonight to be back again in one of the four square churches of his. I remember years ago when I first came to Los Angeles, I'd heard of Sister McPherson, but she had done climbed the golden stairs before I become in the way. And when I went to Los Angeles the first time, I went up to Forest Lawn. I heard she was buried up there. And I went up and stood by her grave and bowed my head, gave thanks to God for a noble life. Since then, I have said poor old Noah about how much fun he was missing and of the world and the things that's going on. But Noah, still persistent, held right on. One day, God said to Noah, all right, you've done your part now. Now come into the ark.
So I don't know if you may need to reconnect. See if I can pause this. Okay. So.
Yep, that was a little audio of the prophet himself. Very persuasive speaker. I'll give him that. Yeah, I mean, it's all ridiculous, but it sounds really good. He was really always talked about as being this ultimate kind of gentle soul. You know what I mean? He's very soft spoken and very kind of sweet natured to be around, I guess.
I mean, if with what he was trying to preach, with what he wanted, it would behoove him to be that way. With the way he was doing it, you wouldn't want to be a Kenneth Copeland.
Yeah, no.
Which I don't know how that dude attracts people. It is he is so scary. I just can't get over that.
Oh yeah, no, and the man has, I mean, just an enormous following too, and just millions of dollars coming every year, and he's a total creep.
Yeah. So, great racket. I would do it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess. Dude's got all them private jets.
Yeah, because he didn't want to ride in a tube full of demons.
Yeah. And, I mean, you look at coming from William Branham, you start getting into like Billy Graham, where they start talking about you give to the Lord and the Lord's going to give back. You're going to get, prosperity preaching. They call it,
Yeah.
You tithe, you're going to get back all this money, and the Lord's going to bless you abundantly. And
It's like the Wiccan threefold law. What you do comes back to you threefold. So
yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they kind of it's such a weird cognate for them, really. But
Yeah.
so I mean, you grew up in this way where you were disconnected. Like we said, you missed the '90s pretty much, lived through it and missed it. Like so, you didn't see Space Jam. You don't.
Well, I got to see Space Jam. There were. It was funny because there were some times when things were a little bit more lax. They were easier on us than some of the other message children had to deal with. Of course, my grandfather, he was always sneaking around. He'd come pick us up and take us to his house to spend the night and let us watch stuff like Terminator 2 or something. You know what I mean? I did have one person in my life for real that was my grandfather. He was not a religious person. I never heard him talk religion. And anytime I tried to, like when I was a kid, you're supposed to witness, you'd bring up anything to my grandfather, and he'd get very kind of odd about it. Didn't want to talk about it. So he would he did some things I feel like to kind of keep me a little more grounded than what some of the other kids in the message experienced. And you did see a lot of instances of abuse that was going on.
Well, they padlocked their families and houses, so
yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, like you get that, and I mean, it was spare the rod, spoil the child, man.
Well, but honestly, like, who among us hasn't padlocked their family into a house? You know what I mean? Like,
well, yeah, throw the first stone.
Right?
What I mean?
Yeah, you gotta,
exactly.
Sometimes they just need to be taught where they belong. It's
exactly.
At home. Stay there. I'll go out and dangers of the world, and I'll handle this. You stay at home. I'm too afraid the men out there will find your denim skirt irresistible. your denim skirt and your 15-foot long ponytail, and
exactly.
The
6
weird
inches of dead ends on the end of your hair.
Your weird manner of speaking because you sound like you're trying to sound Amish, but you're doing a bad job at it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just
that drives the men wild.
Yeah, and that water cooler talk. You know absolutely nothing about the outside world. You can't talk movies, TVs. None
Did you see the game last night? Oh, no, there are no games. No, it is all about the Lord. Did you witness to the Lord last night?
Yeah, did you listen to the prophet last night? I think not.
Yeah.
Sinner.
Be gone, thought. That was where it came from, was the message church.
Exactly.
That was a direct quote from William Branham.
Yeah, be gone, thought. Yeah, William Branham, circa 1962.
I want to get it tattooed.
Yeah, and I mean, like the lines of the lines of reasoning that go through stuff and how they kind of describe things, and it's weird. Like the preacher that started the Azusa Street preacher, there was he was blind in one eye, so whenever he would pray, he'd put his face into a shoebox and pray, and that way no one could see his kind of one eye. And so there was believed to be some sort of spiritual symbolism to the fact that the vehicle
couldn't he
struck.
just close his fucking eyes? Like, what on earth?
I don't know, bro. I don't know.
A shoebox? Yay, that's a fetish. Yeah, he had a fetish.
It's what. Yeah, he's getting a big sniffer of them.
I mean, it was San Francisco too, so.
Yeah, San Francisco, 1904, something like that. Wild times, man.
Yeah,
wild times. But yeah, this dude was the one that started this whole belief that because at a certain point in time, people did not believe in speaking in tongues. That is a recent development. That was not something that people did. But it was in the Bible. So there was a group of people that believed there was going to come a time when these spiritual gifts that were spoken about in the Bible, which was speaking in tongues, prophesying, dreaming, all these types of things that were supposed to be signs of having a spiritual gift, were supposed to reestablish themselves amongst the church folks. And they believed that this Azusa Street incident was when that happened. And that's when people began speaking in tongues again.
Yeah, the speaking in tongues thing is a unique one. I knew this girl in high school who, it's, I guess the way they talk about it is like the spirit is supposed to fill you and move you and speak through you, and there's supposed to be an interpreter and yada yada. But this girl, an ambulance passed, and all of a sudden she's like a shabalap habadabangala, and I'm like, what the fuck was that?
Like just turn it on as some sort of
Yeah, it's like an incantation, like she's doing an incantation right there, and so it's like, oh, we speak in tongues. I'm like that.
Yeah.
Even in high school, I'm like that's not how that's supposed to work.
No, dude. Yeah, and I mean that was, and you were to be filled with the Holy Ghost. So there were a couple things that had to happen. You had to pray until you're filled with the Holy Ghost with evidence of some sort of spiritual gift, being speaking in tongues or whatever it may be. So you had to be filled with the Holy Ghost, which is actual thing that had to happen to you, and you had to go be baptized in order to be fully redeemed. And then from there, you had to, of course, there were other rituals that you had to routinely engage in. For example, I mentioned communion and foot washing. And, there were times that you go to church enough, absurd things happen, people fall and get hurt, or some sort of blooper occurs, you know what I mean? So, like, my memory is filled, like, when I look back and it's like the funny things that happened to me in my life are all some sort of, like, church blooper or something, before the year 2000, or 2000, probably 2001, 2002.
It's crazy that, like, you barely knew of the world at a time before 9/11. Like, because I talk about my kids, like, they came up through school, Columbine and 9/11 have already happened. Like, they don't know anything outside of that life. So for you really don't know much about the world at large prior to those events as well. And I'm sure Columbine was huge in your guys' way. Like, I'm sure that went off in your church.
I remember when Columbine happened. It was on the news and stuff like that, but it wasn't really something, like I said, that we talked about a lot, because actual world events, like things like that, weren't something that really got discussed, because it was outside of the scope of what we were trying to achieve. So like with the Y2K thing, though, there was a particular reason for that being. There was a prophecy that William Branham made that said that there was, I'm paraphrasing here, that there was no way that Christ was going to wait until the year 2000 at least.
So I remember that stuff too. It's kind of weird. Because the way that when I went to a Pentecostal church by choice. My family on my dad's side, they were Nazarene, but then when I was going to church on my own, like my family didn't, I did. I went with some friends of mine. It was Pentecostal, but I remember having fears that like 2000 was going to be it. Like, because if I'm looking back, like leading up to that, Twister came out because there were so many strong, like devastating tornadoes happening during then. And I remember, like,
fine, bro.
I know, dude, it was a great time, especially for people who like storms. And I remember like fearing that, and I would have like what I guess some people would say like prophetic dreams, or I don't know how to explain. So let me tell you this dream I had, right? And you'll see, and you can tell me how you feel about it. And according to like the Message Church, this dream I had was that the world was ending. It was going to end in flame. And the old Bob Evans farmstead, back where the original was. I would too, buddy. I worship at the altar of Bob right now, dude.
Oh yeah, turkey and stuffing.
Oh boy, I like their steak and eggs breakfast, man. Good.
I love that too. Yeah.
It's tell me a Bob Evans food you don't like. That's the quicker one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's none of them. I love them all. Bob Evans is the shit.
Conversation over.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But so they had the original farmstead there, and that was it was such like it's weird to say a holy place, but like my grandma took us there. My childhood was like centered around there, down in Rio
Yeah, I
Grande.
know. Mm-hmm.
And so in this dream, like you had to be within the, because it was wiped out. Like evil had taken over, wars and stuff had broken out. So the Bob Evans restaurant was no longer there, but like the ruins were. And my grandma was inside of it, my brothers were inside of it, and I was trying desperately to get my my mom and my stepdad to, and my little sister was inside there too. I don't even think you knew I had a little sister, but she was in there too, and so I was trying to get my mom and my stepdad to convert, to just believe and come inside, because that was where you were going to be safe, because I was tasked with going to the top of the hill and lighting it was like there's this tall blade of grass, right? And I was supposed to go up and light it, and when it burnt down, when it hit, that was going to be the cleansing fire to cleanse the earth of all wickedness and evil. And if you weren't in the designated safe zones, and for me, my area was that place, and it was just me, my siblings, and my grandma. That was the only people I could get to go inside there to believe me, to stay safe. But I had to light that fire, and then I had to, and it was my atonement, I had to earn my spot in there by making it back before the world was cleansed with flame. So, like, that was the dream I had, and I remember it scared the life out of me, dude. Like, is that similar to what stuff that like you would have happen?
Yeah, there were. It was funny because they had actual events that were supposed to happen leading up to it. He made. It's funny because like some of them are kind of coming true, but he made references to self-driving vehicles. He said that the actual end is going to come around the time the self-driving vehicles begin to become developed. And I remember seeing, years ago, people talking about technology like that, coming out, but they actually have things like that now.
I know, it's weird, isn't it?
It is. So that was one thing. There was another thing, that there was going to be a major earthquake that would cause California to fall into the ocean.
Yeah, that didn't happen. We were all sold that one.
Yeah, exactly. And now you kind of like look at that and be like, yeah, like California could have a huge earthquake. There could be flooding, tsunamis, tidal waves, but it's not like it's just floating on the side of the United States where it could just like crack off and sink into the sea or anything. It's not built like that. But
unfortunately,
that's supposed to be something that happened. California was supposed to crack off and fall into the sea, and that was going to cause a major tidal wave that was going to destroy a large portion of the United States. And ultimately, there was going to be the kind of tribulation period where those non-believers have continued on into basically a life after the rapture.
Okay.
The calling up of God's chosen.
Yeah.
And there was another event that was supposed to happen. There was supposed to be a nuclear weapon that was supposed to be aimed towards Israel, and it was supposed to be discharged towards Israel. That was going to actually be initiated by the Pope. The Pope was going to do something that was going to cause a nuclear attack on Israel. God would defend Israel and cause these nuclear weapons to fall upon the Vatican.
Man, that is so reminiscent of the Left Behind series. Have you ever watched those?
Yeah, because of Left Behind. A lot of like modern day stuff. And see, that's funny because like whenever you mentioned Original Sin, this is William Branham was credited with coming up with the idea of the serpent seed doctrine. Have you ever heard of it?
Nope.
The serpent seed doctrine states that whenever Eve was approached by the serpent in the Bible, he looked more like a human being, something like a missing link. He was attractive. He was something pretty to look upon. He wasn't a snake. He was a serpent, that was a different kind of thing.
Yeah.
So he approached Eve and had intercourse with her.
Okay.
And she became pregnant with Cain, and
The serpent seed.
that
Okay.
that is the serpent. So as God's punishment, Adam and Eve, they get kicked out of the garden. And the serpent, he even says, I curse you upon your belly, and the dust of the earth shall you eat all the days of your life. That is, some sort of literary proof that the serpent was an upright creature that had a sexual tryst with Eve, and that the whole idea of the tree and the garden, the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, that's all metaphor for
metaphor and euphemism for
yeah,
carnal knowledge.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That Eve had sex with basically it was Satan himself that was here on earth under the guise of this beautiful creature that was the serpent.
Yeah. I mean, that's, great theory. You know what I mean? Like,
No, I mean it's just as plausible as the other.
yeah, like it is one that, yeah, I can see why someone would think that, and preach that.
Oh,
So.
and the sons of Cain saw the daughters of man, or something along those lines. But what that means was that Cain, him having that serpent genetic DNA, as he went and had passed his lineage down through the daughters that descended from Abel, or not from Abel because Abel didn't have any children, but from Adam and Eve's other children, that caused the birthing of the giants, that the family of giants that Goliath came from.
Now, I also believe I was reading, and I may just be wrong, but I feel like if you follow the bloodline of Cain, that he is an ancestor to Jesus, if I remember correctly.
He had.
Let's see here.
There was some really interesting. Have you ever heard of Tubal Cain?
Just saw his name just now. I have heard of him before, but I just now saw his name.
I have seen he is referenced in the Bible as being one of the descendants of Cain, and he is because of how it references him. There are people that actually worship him as a deity, as the a godlike person that has brought the skill of blacksmithing to mankind.
Yep, that's what I was reading just now. Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. I took like I said, going back on this William Branham stuff, doing my research and things like that, Cain became an interesting character for me because a lot of stuff kind of revolves around Cain that kind of makes me question certain things. Cain not understanding that murder was a bad thing, because I don't know that anyone would have ever taught him, that.
Did they have the precedent to at that time?
Well, yeah, exactly. We'll see. They had the knowledge of good and evil. But what's interesting is you look at Cain. God gives Cain the mark of Cain, right? Do you know about that?
I was looking at it right now, but so the part of it that I know, honestly, is from Supernatural. So
so Cain kills Abel. God comes to him and confronts him, and God says, go out, get out of here, go out into the world, and you're never going to find peace all the days of your life. And Cain says the most interesting thing. He says, God, whenever I go out there, whenever anybody I come across, they're going to know what I did and they're going to kill me, right? There was no one else in the world. It should have been Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel. Who are these other people that he's talking about? And God,
they said he says go to, and Cain went out to the other people of the world.
Yes, and God gives Cain this mark that says he can never die. No one can ever kill Cain.
Yeah.
And so he sends him out into this world, and it's so funny because the whole argument being is, you look at it and it's created because obviously they call them Branhamites, or the message, the church, the bride, things like that. But the message people, they are heavily creationists. So Adam and Eve were the first two people, and descended from them came everyone else. But if you're reading Genesis, there were other people in the world that Cain was afraid of.
Yeah, like and that's where he found a wife.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
he found it amongst the other people of the world, because it says it in Genesis. I've said that too, that like when I, because I decided one time several years ago, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to just read this book, and I'm going to read it as a book. I'm going to just read it,
Yeah.
And so I started, and I got into Genesis. I'm like, there's so much to unpack here. Like,
I have a bit of a theory about it.
go ahead, let's hear it.
Okay, so I think that if you look at it, and I haven't done enough research into this, it's a hypothesis, and I feel like if you look into it, other people may have even touched on this. But the whole story of God's creation, Garden of Eden story, is referencing the start of an early pantheon of gods. Adam and Eve being other gods, Cain and Abel to be other gods, right? But they got kicked out of their kingdom. If you want to reference Mount Olympus, say, for example, it'd be like Zeus giving birth to Apollo and Athena, and then them doing something that he didn't like, and then him kicking them out so they have to suffer amongst the men on earth.
Okay. I've actually kind of thought of that myself as well.
Yeah.
In also that the Christian pantheon, they already had other gods, and
Yes.
it's probably, you got to go back into like Jewish mythologies and stuff, but
You do. Yeah.
in the
That's really been abandoned a lot.
yeah, but it had this when they ate of the tree of knowledge. God says the humans have become as one of us and has knowledge like us.
Yeah.
And so, I'm like, who's us? Become one of us? What do you mean?
Yeah.
And
God says, let us make man in our own image.
Yeah.
Our own image. Let
Our
us
own.
make man.
Right.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people say that he's using it in the royal we, as in the king of England would say, we are
let
not
us
pleased.
break bread today. Yeah, something like that.
But
yeah.
I don't think that's the case. I think it's just being overlooked because the God of Abraham, the Abraham of God, said that you shall have no other gods before me. Now,
Yes.
Now, does that mean there are no other gods? Because if there are no other gods, he would not need to worry about you putting them before him. Meaning,
No, and
I need to be first and foremost. I am the high God. I am the God. Everyone else is below me. And, so, if you really read it and, like, objectively look at it, it's right there that there are other gods. So, it kind of leads to this, the demigod type thing.
Yeah.
Were Adam and Eve, like you said, were they the gods on earth? Were they
exactly
demigods?
They kicked out of some sort of paradise, to be loved to this god who was lonely or something like that, and they did him dirty.
Yeah.
So
like, everyone keeps leaving me.
Like you pricks.
Yeah. You fuckers.
You fuckers, you did me good this time.
But then he's supposed to be, omniscient, omnipotent. You know what I mean? It's like, well, he knows all. Like, okay.
And it's funny because there's a lot of scholarly type work that's been done in regards to all these other gods and stuff like that. And you look at Martin Luther. Have you ever heard of Martin Luther?
Yeah, the Protestant Reformation.
Protestant, yeah.
Exactly. The 96 Thesis, right?
96 Thesis. Yep, absolutely. So this guy comes along and he says, listen, Catholic Church is screwing you guys over. They're telling you it's much harder than it actually is. This is all you have to do, right?
Yeah.
So it becomes, all I have to do is repent and be baptized. It kind of evolves itself, right? For something that's supposed to be an ultimate truth, it does evolve throughout even its own kind of like lifetime. But
right.
So they take and they kind of cherry pick these scriptures to make it feel good. All I got to do is say I'm sorry. And I have some family members that live back in the holler, right?
Yeah.
And they are this, I like this hillbilly Christian that like the only thing that they do that's Christian is say that they're Christians.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
do
I love
absolutely
it. Yes.
nothing else, but they are hardcore Christians. Like they will go to bat for Christ, and they are. But that's it. They're not going to go to church. They're not going to.
They don't pray. They don't
gonna
tithe.
pray,
Yeah, it's just
exactly.
well,
They
yeah,
follow
I
them.
believe in the Lord our God, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Of course
exactly.
I do. You think I want to be one of these godless sinners and go to hell? But I'll tell you what, you better
my
get the
point
fuck
right there.
on out of here.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It's the bare minimum that they're willing to do to get themselves some fire insurance.
Hey, dude, that's the best thing to say. Yes.
Yeah. So, that was what we'd say. People trying to get some fire insurance.
Yeah.
That's all that they're there for, and that's all that they can. That's all that they can muster. They just want to believe that when they die, there's going to be more. And that
they're just like, well, I'm hedging my bet that this is the right side. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so these people do this, and I find it such a ridiculous thing that hell that is so controlling, and that controls people's way of thinking, and it keeps them impoverished. And it is just they just do it because they're afraid of going to hell.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so troubling.
Yeah, it's so there's like a certain level of Christian that I really enjoy, and there's a few families. There's one family in particular, the Witts of the area, that I think are like the perfect representation of what a Christian should be. They're strong in their faith. They believe in it. They live by it. They witness for it. They preach, but they don't come off as zealots. I'm good friends with them. They know I'm not a Christian, and they love me just the same.
And that's not even an issue. You know what I mean?
Not an issue at all. And they're like the perfect representation of it.
Yeah. No,
so
I've met a few, and that's funny because like they are few and far between.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
When you find somebody that is, you're just like, wow, this person almost makes me want to be a Christian.
If you were all like you, then this is the way to go for sure. But
for sure. Yeah. Like I feel like real love coming from you. It's great. I've met a few of them in my life, and recently, I just left my previous job, went to a new one, but a woman I worked with in my previous job, she was a pastor, and her husband's a pastor. They're both, I believe, that it was Nazarenes.
Okay.
And I don't want to get too much into detail, but this woman had just the absolute most incredible life story. Just wild things happening. Her father was in the military, so she was born and lived in Cuba for a long number of years. She learned to play piano from a Jamaican man that lived in a sunken battleship. And this is all true stories. Like there was a Jamaican dude. He lived in a battleship that was shipwrecked on the coast of Cuba. That's where this man lived, and he taught her how to play piano. Right. When they were living in Cuba.
Okay.
As she gets older, they come back here to the United States. Her father's working as a small plane pilot and teaches her how to fly when she's like 12 years old. She, flying a plane by herself, wrecks and crashes the plane.
Okay.
She and I'm like, okay, so you wrecked a plane and survived a crash when you were 12. Okay, I got it. I'm following along now with you.
Like you do. I mean,
yeah.
Who didn't wreck a plane when they were 12? Come on, that's not that big a deal.
She was working in a courthouse, and she came outside and found an inmate that had escaped, was trying to steal her vehicle, and she fought this man for 12 minutes before someone came and helped her.
Was this in Jackson?
No, it was. This was a number of years ago where she lived at well, whatever town she lived at before she came here. But she traveled around a lot.
Okay.
When she got married, her and her husband, they were military, and so she got to travel the world. She one of her kids ran off and ran away from home. They had no idea. They came to pick her up from school at college, and she was gone, and they didn't hear from her for a full year. And she tracks down and finds out that she's living at some kind of like commune, right?
Like you do.
And yeah, and this woman goes by herself. So she finds out because someone that they know sees their kid inside of a store and follows them back to this commune and lets them know.
Right.
So yeah, she goes rolling her ass out there to just let her kid know exactly how she feels about the situation. Because I mean, she's an adult, so she can do whatever she wanted to do. But she found her after a year and went out and gave her a piece of her mind. I'm like, that's brave.
Yeah,
like this woman is courageous.
A commune could easily be a cult. And,
Yeah,
you know,
you can be the next one on the slab.
Right.
know?
They could have been cannibals. They were there buying vegetables to go into cannibal soup. You never know.
100. Yeah, absolutely. It could have been anything. For real.
But she's like, you know what? I'm going to go out there and tell these people, fuck you, to their face.
And she is the most soft-spoken and sweetest woman. And she is just, Jesus is always behind everything that she does. She is a real, true Christian. And just, I'm like, that is just, you come across some of them and it's like, that's just the most incredible life. And she makes me want to start going back to church.
Yeah, like I love her. Like she's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. She's just the kindest person I've ever met.
It's so weird that but they're zealots of everything, dude. And what's the funniest thing is that some of the most insufferable religious people are atheists. Atheism. They're like, I'm not religious. I'm an atheist. Like, well, let's
you're never ever going to win people over with any kind of argument like that when you're just in their face. You know what I mean? Yeah,
it's the same thing as like Kirk Cameron and that dude being on the streets. Like, you're a sinner. You're going to hell. I'd be like, yo, get the fuck out of my face.
Seriously,
they beat you over the head with it. It's like, how do you know someone's a vegan? Don't worry, they'll tell you. Same thing with atheism. They will find a way to bring it up, and then no matter what. But honestly, the weird thing is that there's a certain sect of them that they will only bash Christians who are religious. Every other religion to them is valid, and to me, what that's saying is, as atheists, they're not really atheists because they only see Christianity as their challenge. That's the only one that's real. So the other ones, you can be whatever you want, but Christianity is the only real religion, so that's the only one we're against. And it's like, so listen to what you're saying, and you are still being a Christian because you believe it is the only real religion. You're just on the wrong side of it.
Yeah, and I mean, and you can look at it and be like, just by the sheer volume of people that are Christians in the world, I mean, it is the number one.
Yeah, most definitely.
And you look at it and you say it can't not have an influence on everything. And I coming from my background, I see it all as being very oppressive. And so I have a really difficult time agreeing with anything that somebody says, from a pulpit or even evangelicals. Like, I'm just like, you guys are just trying to control people. I know what's in that book.
Right. Yeah. That's exactly the way it feels. It's like there's the just like, okay, so with heathenry, like there are zealots out there who make it to where it's like, okay, this isn't. And it's not to say that religion should be fun, but there should be an element of it that makes you want to continue doing it. And there are people out there who make it insufferable. And it's the whole like UPG, the unverified personal gnosis. That I believe it this way, but then you've got people out there. No, you can't do that. It is this way. It's like, okay, so with every religion, there is the organic and lovable side of it. The one that is genuine, and then you've got the one that's forced.
That side is exactly you love the honest side of it.
Yep.
Sincere,
and it's the thing that keeps people into it is the sincere. It's like the wits. They're sincere in their belief.
Yes.
It is so honest. It's refreshing because when they talk about when my friend Billy was passing, I wasn't around him a lot, you know what I mean? But I never heard anyone say either that there was never a time where he was doubting where he was going.
Yeah.
There was never a time that he was against God or wanted to give up on it. He was just, this is God's plan. This is what happens, and this is how it's supposed to be. So, like, he suffered, but in with such grace that, like, it's a weird thing to say that. Suffering with grace is such a weird thing to say, but he did. He went through years of this to where, like, it really only became apparent towards the end, and he was still like trying to. I went and saw him shortly before he passed, and he's like, "How are you doing, man?" And like he was barely able to stay awake. I mean, it was so close to the end, but I loved that I got to see him again. And he he wanted to talk to me, and he's like, well, I could be better, but it's the way it's supposed to be. So, like that genuine, that sincerity, that real, because real recognizes real. You know what I mean? You can tell when someone's real about it. And like you said, the holler Christians, the ones who just say they're a Christian, but what are you doing? Like he lived it to his dying breath. He lived it, and you can't hate.
You know
that.
what? No, you can't. And I will say this much: like the ones that really truly believe it. It works for them just as well as it does for anyone else. Someone who is fervently praying. I believe there have been times that I have prayed so hard and so truthfully that I have manifested things into existence.
Dude, that is like scientific fact that will.
You know what I mean?
It affects. It's one of those like quantum physics. What is it? Expectation affects reality, I think is what it is. So your will for something to happen, it's you speak it into existence sort of thing. If you wake up and you stub your toe, and that's the first thing that happens, and you're just like, oh fuck, this day sucks, and you start off and all your words are negative, everything you do is negative about it, then you are going to have a bad day. You're going to go outside, your car's not going to start immediately, or you're going to be so low on gas you have to stop at a gas station, so you're going to be behind, and you get in there and gas is going to be really high, so it's a bad day because all you're noticing is the bad. And that's what you're focused on because it's where your mind is. But so your expectation affects your reality, and to the point that there's an unquantifiable energy that your will puts out there. So I believe if you're sitting there and you're praying and you're so hard and so sincere and you want it bad enough, when you doing it, you are manifesting that into the world. And that is magic. That is the unexplained phenomenon that is where magic exists.
So I recently got it more into dabbling with that type of stuff.
Okay.
And I developed a ritual that I like to perform. I really like to try to do it a couple times a week.
Is this a Seder or a Galder?
It is actually like elemental type magic stuff.
Oh, okay.
So basically what it is it's I have this, I pour water into this clay pitcher.
Okay.
And I have this clay cup that I drink out of, and I pour this water into it. And when I'm pouring the water into the pitcher, I say words over top of it, anointing the water. I speak praise to the water, reminding it where it came from, how powerful it is, persistent to crack the stone, type of stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then the next day, I drink this water when I wake up, and then I recite a phrase about waking up, because I believe that within every human being is a potential when you're able to control yourself fully to reach an almost like deity-like status.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
So it is this almost like prayer to the God that's within you, and you drink this water to wake yourself up. Kind of remind yourself of what you can be.
Well, because I mean, to speak to that, there's we are in every religion, every thought. Like, it's hard to not believe in some creation, to something, even if it's as mundane as gravity as the reason we're here, because it's the force that pulls everything together. Something created us, but that's taking all the magic and mystery out of the world, and I think that we need to keep that. So saying is gravity, you're like, okay, well, what is gravity? Why couldn't gravity be the divine in you? So there's an element of divinity in every human because of the nature of our creation. The breath of life that, let's go with the heathen thing. Odin gives the breath of life, and that's where the element of the soul almost, which is weird to say because the soul has been weighed, like it has a weight that was done. And it's if it's not divine in nature, I don't know what it would be. And you can call divinity whatever you want. It's outside of our perceived world.
Exactly. And you live long enough, you see things that are okay. So one time my ex-wife and I, we were driving northbound on 93 between Oak Hill and Jackson, right?
Okay, yeah.
So we're crossing the railroad tracks there. We're getting ready to cross the railroad tracks there by where all that factory is and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's late at night. We just left my parents' house. It's probably like midnight, getting close to 1 o'clock. And me and her both heavy churchgoers at the time. We're traveling, and we're driving down 93 where these two hills kind of come down. This hill comes down and crosses 93, and then a hill comes up the other side. And I'm telling you, man, there was a ghost. That sounds ridiculous. There was a ghost, a shadow figure, a misty figure, walk down the hill and across the road and up the other side. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw it. It was the most stunning and shocking thing I'd ever seen in my life. I literally, like a cartoon or a movie or something like that, like I took my glasses off and just like rubbed my eyes because I couldn't believe it. And my wife, she said, "Did you just see that?" And
that when that happens, it's like, because I had a similar, well, not too similar. I had an experience of a supernatural too, but I didn't speak up first. Someone else said, "Did you just see that?" And that's when it hit me that like, oh shit, that was real. Because okay, so how many psychedelic drugs were you on at the time?
At the time, none.
Yep. Right? So
absolutely sober as a judge.
Right. Whenever, well, can't really say that. known too many judges. But when I had my experience, I was a teenager. I didn't and I still don't. I don't do drugs. I've never have. So I was completely clear-minded when I saw, and I'll go ahead and relay this since, we're talking about it. I was 15, 16 years old, something like that. Yep. And I lived on 93 between Colton and Jackson. And my bedroom was in the basement of our house. And I was into, I was into Wicca. I was into Satan, and it was just everything metal. You know what I mean? I was a big metalhead. So, and what's more metal than Satan? Like,
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah, no. Yeah,
So,
number one.
yeah, if
Yeah.
you're going to be
He
metal,
invented the genre.
right? And you know, I can do nothing but give him thanks for that. So, like, I'm a huge fan, you know, and
Yeah.
I was totally into it. But I was laying down there with my buddy, who sometimes will admit to this happening, other times will not. But we were listening to the most evil, vile artist on earth, Kid Rock. So, you know,
No.
yeah, I know, right? It was
Yeah.
so bad. Like, I'm surprised Satan wasn't sitting there with us, because we were listening to, you know, the devil himself, Kid Rock.
Yeah.
The devil without a cause. He is the bull god, you understand?
Yes. Yeah.
God damn. So I'm listening
American
to,
badass. Man.
yeah, buddy, you know, watch him kick.
Yeah.
You can roll with Rock, or you can suck his dick. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
I do
Absolutely.
love Kid Rock though. Like, it's such trash, but I fucking love it. It gets me hype as fuck. Like, Ball with the Ball comes on, I'm hype as fuck. Anyways,
Yeah.
so we're laying there listening to that, kind of talking. You know, we're going to bed. He's spending the night at the house, and you know, we're teenagers, so we're talking shit. You know, and I was, you know, laying there listening to music. I turned the light off, and we're still listening to it. Apparently, he didn't listen to music to sleep, but I did. He's like, "Hey, man, can you turn that music off so I can go to sleep?" I'm like, "Well, fucking square, sure, you know."
Yeah. Whatever, dude.
So, yeah, fuck you, buddy, I guess. But, you know, I turn it off, and, like, I'm not even kidding. The moment I turn that fucking thing off, and in the basement where I stayed was also the washer and dryer, right?
Yeah.
So from beside the dryer flies up a black ball. Like, it is. I'm in the basement. It's dark. There's no lights on. There's no light in the stairwell to the basement. The only light close to it is the light over top of the stove that no one ever turns off.
Yeah.
And that was up the stairs all the way to the other side of the kitchen. It's the closest light I had. So I see this black ball fly up, and it covers the smoke detector.
Yeah.
Which was, you know, wide enough that you could see it in the dim light that did peer through the darkness. But you couldn't see it no longer. And I just look at it. I'm frozen. I'm just looking at this thing. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to say anything, because apparently I've lost my fucking mind. When my buddy speaks up, he goes, "Hey, man, did you see that?" I said, "You talking about that black thing that flew up there?" He goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Yeah, I saw that." He goes, "Turn the light on." I'm like, "I don't think I can." Because I was like froze, right? He's like, "Dude, turn the light on." Just like a fucking movie, bro. I reached up to turn that light. It's one of those, like, turn clicks. You go, you know, click, click, and it comes on. One of those turny dials.
Yeah.
Click, click, nothing. Click, click, nothing. Click, click, nothing. And I am going frantic. He's freaking out, because why am I getting frantic? Because the thing's moving towards me.
Yeah.
Like, you know, swear on everything, you know, life on the line.
No. Yeah.
It's coming at me, right?
See, this is the thing. Like, whenever you have an experience like that, you're more prone to believe other people's experiences.
Right. And
depending,
because there's some people talk about it, I'm like, you're full of shit. I don't believe you.
You know,
but
I mean, everyone does have their bullshit detectors, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It was coming at me, dude. So, like, I'm frantic trying to turn this light on. I turn the light on, and this thing dissipates.
Mm-hmm.
But it is now encompassing the entirety of the room. Like, that energy, it becomes oppressive. The light's on, but it's still very, like, dark. Everything is oppressed. And I'm like, we have to get out of here. Let's go upstairs. So he gets up before me, and I'm, like, you know, getting dressed. I always wore boots everywhere, but I left them downstairs. Get in the stairwell, and I feel like the you know, back of my neck, the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. I just feel creeped out. And we're about halfway upstairs, and I look behind me, and there it is at the bottom of the stairwell again. And I'm like, oh shit. So I push my buddy. There's no more walking. I am pushing him up the stairs, get into the kitchen where the light is, and it comes up to the top of the stairwell, stops, right before where the light could touch it. It stops. You can witness it turn around. It goes back down the stairs, and my light bulb busted. And when I say busted, I mean shattered. There were shards of glass. We go downstairs the next day. My mattress was off the bed, and his little rollaway bed was knocked over. We didn't do it. We were upstairs, and then it's like you could hear electric. It sounded. It was such a. My dad wakes up. Right, we're in the living room now. My dad comes by, and he says, "You guys look like you just saw a ghost." I'm like, you have no idea. You've got no idea. So like, I didn't sleep in that room for 6 months, and then when I did, I didn't turn the light off. Like it was, like I remember it so plainly to this day, dude. Like, what the fuck? What was that? So,
and I had since it's Halloween and we're sharing here, I had another experience. I was staying up at my grandmother's house, and I was there with my cousin, and we had a cousin that was much younger than us, probably about 10 years younger or something. She was probably 5. See, no, she wasn't that much younger, because we were probably 11, 12, and she was probably 5. She's about 5, 6 years younger than us.
Okay.
And we were up real late at night. We always watched Cartoon Network had really good like Scooby-Doo and really Jabberjaws and Josie and the Pussycats, shit like that, Snorkels.
Yeah, before Boomerang was a thing.
Yeah. It had a lot of really good old retro cartoons, and we watched it all the time. So we were sitting there, and we were watching it, and I see my younger cousin. She comes walking out of the bedroom, walks down the hallway towards where the bathroom is, right? Mm-hmm. And I was sitting there, and we were watching cartoons, and I noticed that a lot of time went by, and I looked over at my cousin, and this was later at night. This is probably around midnight, and I said, "She's taking a long time in the bathroom." He said, "Yeah, I know. He'd seen her too." And I went down there and checked, and there was nobody in there. There was she hadn't gotten out of bed or anything, and we had both seen what appeared to be like a younger 5-year-old girl around that age go walking down the hallway. And now even when I look back, like I don't recall seeing her like walk out of a door. It was almost like she walked past me without me noticing her, and then she kind of like appeared in the hallway. It was very weird. And looking back on it, she didn't walk the same way that my cousin walked and stuff. But we both saw it, and it was very, very freaky.
That's the that when there's two people, when that's what really gets me, is like we both saw it. It was there.
Yeah.
That's I know. In that same vein,
that person,
Yeah. Well, for me, they won't fucking admit it, man. Like they're so afraid of it, they just don't talk about it. I'm like, hey, you remember when it happened? Or like, I don't remember anything about that. I'm like, okay. So it really aggravates me, because it's like, dude, like you could really talk about this. So that same ball or whatever must have been attached to me. Yeah. I was at a friend's house, and we were hearing things in the woods. Like this dude, he's kind of affluent, and they lived back in the woods off of Mount Zion. And
okay.
Yeah. So
wanky area.
Yeah, boy. We're back there, and lights are on. We're just a bunch of teenage boys playing pool, having fun. And funny enough, none of us drank or anything. We were just there. You know what I mean? Being kind of nerdy, little, teen boys. So we're outside because we hear this noise in the woods. I'm sure it was a deer. Looking back, I'm sure it was. But we were given into fantasy. What is this?
Oh,
so
absolutely.
we go outside with like weapons.
Could be anything.
Yeah, it was a Demogorgon, and we're ready to do battle. We were also into D&D and fantasy, so
yes,
we're just giving over to fantasy and letting it be what it is. A bugbear in the woods we're about to take down. But as I'm standing there, I'm standing in the one area of, like, there's no light touching it. And up from the woodpile, a small ball of darkness flies up, goes around my friend towards me, and I happened to step into the light, and it disappeared. I watched my friend watch it. I watched him watch this ball. He looked up at me, white as a ghost. He said, "I will never admit to anybody that I saw that."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "I won't. I refuse to admit that I saw that." I
Yeah.
said, "But you did." He said, "For right now, I'll tell you, yes, I did. I saw that thing."
Yeah.
But he absolutely, like, would not convey it to anybody else. Even the people who've heard, like, won't say, "You saw what?" He goes, "Nothing. I saw nothing." Like, at the very moment, he refused to see. So I don't know what that was, but there was some darkness that, like, was attached to me or something, which, you know, given the shit that I was doing at that age, I was dabbling in, like, using a pendulum and shit like that, and I was very into, like, you know, Satan, because, you know, metal.
Sure.
So there was some dark energy that had attached itself to me or something, but, like, it was freaky, dude. Like, there was some shit that, like, and honestly, dude, that house we lived in was fucking haunted. My brothers both have stories of haunts from it. They have friends that were over and experienced it. He took a group of people down into the basement where I lived, and they did a pendulum with a candle, and, like, it scared the shit out of his friends because of the things that happened. So that house was haunted as fuck. But apparently, I'm the one who haunted it too, according to my brother's pendulum event. Like, I was the reason that the whatever gate got opened up and haunted that house was because of me. So whatever, you know.
For real, you know, it's crazy when things like that happen. When the incident happened with me and my ex-wife, and that was an honest life-changing moment for me, because not everyone gets a chance to have, you know, like a real confirmation of that there is supernatural things in the world. And that was, you know, for me, just so real, and it was just the wildest thing. So in a lot of ways that changed my life going forward from that very moment, because I am going forward with an understanding that there is far more than what I ever really believed.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Yeah, where that would absolutely, and to think about it, like, it kind of, it does. And if it doesn't, you're lying to yourself, because I know that's basically what I was doing for, like, from that point on. I was like, no. And it's so strange, because I was so into Wicca too, but I was into Wicca in this very atheistic fashion, and that, it was
more of a search for you, and I was kind of the same way. Like, I did it, and it was like I was seeking. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't adhere exactly to all these tenets, because, you know, I dabbled in Wicca and other kinds of pagan schools of thought and things, and still even, you know, on a journey of self-exploration as far as all that goes. But
no doubt. If you're not journeying, like, you're not learning, and, like, to quantify that, look at Odin. What was he? Wisdom.
Yeah.
You know, if you're on the heathen path and you're not still seeking, then you're not doing it. You know what I mean? That's kind of nothing is
Odin
set.
Is an allegory, you know, for me. Like, he's very representative of, like, more. I need more of this. I've got to find more power. I've got to find more magic. I've got to find more ways to give myself an edge, you know. I really that aspect of Odin is something that I really kind of look to.
I had a theory a while back about them, being that there's the Aesir, the Vanir, and the Etnir, or the Jotnar. That you know, the Jotnar are the, like, chaotic elemental parts of Earth, where, kind of like the Titans in Greek and Roman mythology, where they are all of the chaos agents of human life, in fire, is an agent of chaos. It is part of the Jotnar tribe. It's Surt. Then you've got the Vanir, which is more fertility. It's very earth based. It's very you can the gentle rain, and you can say
it's got a lot of magic and witchcraft coming.
Very much.
It's
very earth centered, earth worship, earth magic type feel to it. And then you've got the Aesir, which seems to deal more with the metaphysical and the mind. So it's like you have they're like the higher consciousness. Whereas the Vanir is on the same planes as your ancestors and the land whites and stuff. All of the stuff that's here with us. And then the Aesir are somewhere else where it's all the higher self, the superego, as you said. In that realm where it is above all, it's very mind-oriented and it's very metaphysical. So, I mean, it goes back to the archetypes, the essences, the all of that is all involved in all of that.
Yeah, tapping into two different streams is kind of coming from the same source. And, and that's kind of something you talk about that, which I find interesting that at a certain point in time, members of the Vanir, they come over to the Aesir, and almost like a trading of hostages.
It was a part of a truce, I think, is what it was.
Yeah,
stopped the war.
It was the stop the war between them. It was a trading of hostages, basically.
Yeah.
So you've got that going on, and then you look at the Jotnar. Some of them marry into those gods. Some of them are worshipped widely by heathens, and not being I believe the goddess Skaldi is
she's a giantess.
So I've heard her name get thrown around in worship, especially during those fun winter times.
Frey's wife is a giantess. Thor's wife is a giantess. Thor's mother is a giantess.
I was going to say Thor's half a giant. So you look at that and you go, so the Jotnar, the hate that they receive seems to be kind of arbitrary, because some of them are beloved and worshipped.
And that to me is like it's like saying that you're. It feels like people view it as Loki worship. Whenever you say you are giving reverence to any giants, because I mean, let's talk about it. Surt, the fire giant. If is fire not dual purpose? Now they say Loki is fire, like he's encompasses fire, and it's because of his dual nature. Like he can both be warm and inviting, and he can be comforting, but all at the same time he'll burn your fucking house down. Whereas Surt is purely the chaotic element, like and should you not give reverence to such an extreme thing? Like, what do we say about a firearm, right? It's called a firearm, but what do you do with it? You respect it.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah.
And is respect not just a minor form of reverence? Like to say that you don't care about it at all. Well, that's foolish. You should definitely be reverent of fire, because it can burn your fucking house down.
Exactly. You look at it, and in comparison, you respect and you revere, because you know what these things are capable of doing.
Yep. Water is the same way. Water is, the source of life, but will kill you right now.
Yeah, me and my buddy, we were roommates, and we were flood victims during the big flood that happened down here in southeastern Ohio a few years ago.
Oh yeah.
We got flooded out bad. We woke up, we're getting ready to go to work, and stepped out, opened the front door, and water was just about ready to start coming in through the bottom of the door.
Fuck.
And it was all the way up to the top step. And he said, dude, I was still laying on the couch about half asleep. I didn't have to get up for another half hour. So it was late at night. We were third shift. He said, dude, water's getting ready to start coming in through the door. And I jumped up and looked, and sure enough, we had not much time. And we shut the door and we're like, what are we going to do? And I was like, well, let's just put some towels down, like, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. Just sitting around, like smoking weed all the time and stuff like that. Just, I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
So
get a straw.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to start, get us a bucket. We're going to start bailing the shit out. So we're sitting there trying to figure this out. There's a knock at the door. We open the door, and it's a firefighter who's telling us that we need to evacuate because more water's coming. And so we start trying to gather up some stuff, try to put some valuables like the TV up on the couch, and I had a bookcase that had a bunch of DVDs on it, to just try to get everything off the floor that we can. And man, that water started coming in through that door. And we ran upstairs, started getting some items for the night because we were going to have somebody come pick us up. And we came downstairs, and by the time we came downstairs, the water was about halfway up my calf.
Jesus Christ.
Like furniture was floating around it happened fast. Furniture was like floating around in the living room, and we walk out the back door, and the back of the building was up against the hill, and the water was so high back there that our sliding glass door, the water was probably about, I don't know, 8 or 9 inches above the water level in the house. So when I opened the door, man, this flood of water just came rushing in.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was crazy. And we kind of swam our way out of our apartment.
I assume you didn't have power at the time?
Yeah, no, like power was still on, lights were still on.
Oh my God, that's way more dangerous. That made it so dangerous.
Yeah, it was scary. It was scary. Yeah, like I said, the water was well above the outlets.
Fucking wild, dude. Like, and it's one of those things, man. Like, yeah, we drink water to survive. You have to have it to live, right? But it will fucking kill you. And it can come from the sky and just be like, you know what? Hey, we're going to do this, So, like, where is it to say that, like, we shouldn't... I don't think you should worship chaos, but you should definitely give it the respect it deserves. Because also, if we're thinking of things, and I said this when I was leaving the organization, that, chaos is an agent of change. Things do not improve or get worse without chaos. It's static. And if something doesn't happen to make things change, then everything stays the same. So, part of the evolution of that group was, there was the associate member. I was the first associate member, and I was the first to leave of my own accord, and release from the oath and leave honorably. I was the first, so I was another evolution, but it was chaotic because of things that were going on and the way I conducted myself and stuff. So it was an agent of change and allowed for the evolution of the group in that manner. So it's one of those things where chaos shouldn't be worshipped, but it definitely has its spot where it needs respect.
Yeah, I do not believe that there's any kind of change without some degree of chaos, or wouldn't really change, because you're going into something new, and man, that takes a lot of courage. It does. I remember, like, I just started this new job. I'm 4 days into it, right? And man, it's a tumultuous time for me right now. Like, I'm trying to learn everything, and it is completely different. And so there's a steep learning curve for me, and my life is chaos right now. Like, there is no rhyme or reason to anything. I feel like that I got going on, that it's wild. But yeah, you have to go through that, and in order to volunteer to go through that process, it's courageous. And I look, on this and see anyone going out on any kind of new venture trying to improve themselves. That's brave.
Yeah, it's kind of doing that. Facing the chaos is almost ritualistic to especially if you acknowledge it, and it's almost giving it its giving it its due reverence.
Yeah.
When you do that. Sorry, I was distracted.
Yep.
My wife just walked through the house and distracted me a little bit.
All right.
All right.
All right. All right.
Giggity.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I think that's the thing. Like, I feel like it's important to, like, if you're sitting there and you're in a room and there's fire there, you have to acknowledge it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
can't just be like,
no-
no, fire's not. I don't believe
ignoring
in fire.
it is not an option.
Right.
So when you're talking about these chaotic elements and stuff like that, if you do not acknowledge them, you know what fire's capable of doing if it's left unchecked.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of like, I feel like sometimes as chaotic elements, you should acknowledge them, and when you acknowledge them, that's when you can ultimately depend on your ego to make that choice to say, I want to control this chaos to the best of my ability.
I don't even know if control is the right word to use. I think it's work with. You get
I suppose
you get chaos to agree with you. It's like cats.
Yeah.
Cats are never domesticated. They are tame wild animals, and at any moment they can attack you. You are never controlling a cat.
Yeah.
Give me just one. I'm going to mute for a second.
Yeah, you bet.
All right, I'm back. had to mute for just a second there.
No problem.
She was up getting dressed and putting on a coat, and I'm like, it's fucking 1 a.m. Are you leaving? She's getting something out of the car. But yeah, you can't control chaos, but you can. I think you can definitely work with it, and that's where, people build fires. And to do it, every time I build a fire, I cannot help but think about the fact that it is a chaos element. It is one of the, and go back to heathen lore into the cosmology, and you have Gununga Gap, you have Muspelheim and Niflheim, and it's the fire and the ice that come together that sort of begin creating the cosmos, wherein we reside. Then there's Ymir emerges, and you've got Aldumla and all that stuff, and there's all that the great cosmic questions of how did this happen. But sometimes, that's the scientific brain. Sometimes don't worry about how it happened. My kids ask me how a TV works. I'm like, I don't know, magic, I guess. It's and why can't it be? Why does it have to be something else? So it's one of those, like, just let it be what it is. Ymir was there, Bor was there, Aldumla was there, and it just all came from that. But you go back to fire and ice is just water in another form. So it's essentially fire and water. They're two chaos elements, and I think they're the two primordial chaos elements.
Yeah.
Because everything else comes from, where do storms, where does lightning come from? Well, that's, it's water is involved in that.
Some sort of ancient knowledge that human beings had, and, like I said, codified it in these kinds of stories and things. Because I agree, like, you look at, like, how the universe was made according to physicists and stuff, the fire and water idea is a really good way to kind of explain what happened. You know what I mean? And even the Bible, it talks about he separates the water from the firmament. It was water seems to be a very important key aspect to a lot of this things around the world, and you just kind of understand that they understood the power that the elements had. Yeah.
I mean, and even to the Big Bang Theory, well, it's the most scientific thing. Like, you think of a Big Bang like baking soda and vinegar. It's a cataclysmic event in that infinitesimal way. There, like if you lived in a microcosm, and somehow on that quark you live on, you're in the mixture of baking soda and vinegar, it explodes. Like, that's cataclysmic. It is a violent reaction. Well, fire and ice have the same thing. There's chaos that happens in that, like ice turning to water, it's melting.
Yeah.
It's violence. It doesn't seem like it is, but it is because it's a transference of power and all that. And
Yeah.
fire
And you're
melts
only
ice,
gonna get-
and water puts out fire. They are battling each other. So it's that
You're
battle.
only going to get a story about that from Iceland too. You're gonna,
Right,
with
yeah.
the volcanoes and the glaciers and stuff.
Right, yeah.
Because nowhere else really in the world, you look at it, do you ever get to see anything that hot interacting with something that cold during that time? You know what I mean? Like no one was like smelting iron. It was nowhere in the world was you finding anything that was lava was. So they had an understanding of how severe and how hot something could actually be that a lot of people in the rest of the world didn't.
You have the islanders in like Hawaii and stuff, but they were tropical.
Yeah.
They didn't know the freezing part of it.
They'd never seen what it was like when it touched ice.
Yeah, they just saw it touch water, and it would like cool.
Because when it touched that, it goes from ice, it skips the water phase and turns into steam immediately.
Yeah,
and that creates that wild kind of violent reaction when it skips that the water phase, and
Yeah, that is a crazy, it's just, man, I'm glad you got to go to Iceland. Like, I wish I want to.
Dude, I was talking to Jessica, and it's funny because me and her, we have our whole, idea about our life that we want to have revolves around world travel.
It's a good idea to have.
Excuse me. Yeah, that is the... excuse me. That is the ultimate goal for us.
Yeah.
We have a list of countries we like to go see. Greece is one that we're going to go see probably as soon as we can. We also want to take a big Europe trip, go to England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales.
Yeah. Nice.
And but I was talking to her the other day, and I said, if something happens and we get a lot of money, we're able to take these trips, I said, I want to, next time we take a trip, go back to Iceland again. Even though, my ultimate kind of bucket list stuff is to get as many countries in as possible, I have to see Iceland one more time before I die, or I don't believe I would feel satisfied on my deathbed.
Well, and to look at, like you said, this story can only come from Iceland.
Yeah.
And it's Floki, I believe, called it the land of the gods because of the tumult that happened. You've got the fire and the ice, you've got the fog.
Yeah.
It's very primordial, especially to first bear witness to that. Like, who wouldn't think that that's where gods are either born or maybe where the center of creation.
The full did you watch the Vikings series all the way through?
I have not finished it yet. I'm so close to the end.
I've not either. Okay, so but you did see where Floki discovered Iceland, right?
Yeah.
He's like Scandinavian Noah.
Yeah.
So he goes out and he discovers Iceland. He even released ravens that did the thing that Noah's doves did.
Right.
And so they get to Iceland, and in the series, Floki goes to this waterfall, right? And he sees this rainbow and sees one of the gods. I think it's Heimdall.
Yeah.
And me and my wife went to that waterfall. It's called Skogafoss. And we got there. It was very early in the day, probably 2 o'clock. The sun was in a perfect spot, and there was a rainbow that was there that was ever present. No matter where you were at, you couldn't escape it. And as you're walking up to the waterfall, there's 2 rainbows, and it's just this incredible mist that comes off this waterfall, and the lighting was perfect. And you're like, yeah, of course they believe in the Rainbow Bridge because it's right here in front of my eyes.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Why if it's there all the time, why wouldn't you think that's where the gods touch down on Earth? That's the Bifrost.
Permanent, a permanent rainbow stayed right there in front of your eyes, and it was almost like it was like you were looking at it with the back of your eye. It was very deep in your eye. It even felt weird. penetrative. Yeah, I would even say.
That's
there's
incredible, man. Like,
yeah,
and here we go again with water, though. Like, look at that. Where does that
yeah,
permanence happen?
oh, yeah,
Around water. You
yeah,
know, it's
mhm.
like
A
it
gateway to
comes
something else. You know.
it comes back to those like primordial elements of chaos
Mhm.
being agents of change and agents of,
Yeah.
like life and death. And,
Mhm.
what realm do gods exist in if not the realms of life and death? Like, so
Yeah.
it's such a crazy thing to like think that we just drink it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we drink it. We breathe oxygen, which is flammable.
Yeah.
Like, and inflammable, flame,
Mhm.
fire. The thing we breathe in fuels fire, chaos.
Has to have it.
It has to have
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
For fire to exist, it has to have the thing that we breathe for us to exist.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, like, and there's that, that divinity, like,
Yeah.
we
And
breathe
see, that's
this.
the thing. I'm going to rip off this guru that I listened to, but he was talking to this a girl. She was asking something. He said, "What'd you have for breakfast?" Yeah, she's like, "I had toast," whatever. And so he goes on to describe that it is a miraculous thing that every single human being, they take food into their body and they turn it into human being.
Mm.
And he's like, that's godly. That is like that is a power. He's like, we're used to these things that happen to us because they seem mundane, but you look at it and you have like complete and total power over your life. And you can be happy because you should be happy. It's just state of mind. And I'm telling you, it's been like listening to some of his stuff has been very life changing for me. I've gotten very zen with the way I approach life these days.
Yeah, man, that's a profound statement. It
Yeah.
takes food into the body and turns it into human being. Because immediately when you went turns into, I thought waste,
Yes.
but like that's just our human like ha side talk. But to think
Yeah.
turns into
Hmm.
human being, like, well, the waste
Yeah.
is just what we couldn't use to build our body. Like,
Yeah.
we take nutrients, amino acids, electrolytes. We everything that is making up that
Hmm.
substance, we take it into us and we tear it apart internally
Yeah.
and use it. So that's just it's when you really think about things that we consider mundane and you
Yeah.
put a spin on it to the point of saying we breathe in the fuel for fire and we drink that which quenches fire.
Yeah.
It's like,
And
what a weird thing.
you look at these things and you look at it and you go, this is the honest to God truth that everything that you experience in life boils down to perspective. And if you believe it enough, you have control over that. There's this kind of Buddhist philosophical thing that I was reading about, and they'll say, you're driving in a mall parking lot. Okay, you're about ready to you can't find a spot. You see somebody backing out. You're waiting patiently to get the spot. About the time another car comes down the opposite lane, pulls into the parking spot that you were waiting for, and you roll your window down and say, "I was waiting for that spot," and the guy flips you off, and off he goes with his business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it asks you when you're faced with this kind of situation, how are you feeling emotionally? Do you want to get out and fight this guy? Do you want to? Because you risk injuring somebody,
Injuring yourself.
and, injuring yourself. Do you want to vandalize his car? You could end up getting in some sort of legal trouble or something like that. None of it is worth it. Okay,
Right.
none of it is worth it. You can't. So they say, what if instead you're sitting there patiently waiting, the car pulls out and drives off, and as you're turning in, all of a sudden a cow comes walking down by some of the cars and walks into the spot and lays down in the middle of the spot and refuses to move. And when you get out, you try to run it off, it just kind of moves at you and kind of like kicks you away. How are you going to feel about this? And I'm like, that would be the just like craziest, most whimsical moment. You know what I mean? Like it would be hilarious. Like I was
Yeah.
at the mall and this fucking cow just appeared out of nowhere.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
The same thing happened to you, you know, but you're processing it in a weird way. And you have to understand that everybody's reactions to everything to how they treat you is just a reflection of how they are processing things in their life.
Man, that
And
is wow, that is deep, man. Because you
yeah,
have the same thing. You didn't get that spot. It doesn't matter that you rolled your window down and said, "Hey, cow, move." I was waiting there. It doesn't matter. But like you said, it's if a cow did it, you've got a story to tell. That well, either way, you've got a story to tell. Either way, the guy pulling in, you're telling the story later to your buddies. The
exactly.
cow, you're telling the story later to your buddies. Yeah.
Where they start comparing the cow to the man and how how that they are very similar and how you can even look at the similarities between the two and help yourself process those things. Now there's this one's a little bit more, I believe, of a popular Zen Buddhist thing that they tell. I can't remember what it's called, but he there was a monk who thought very highly of himself, and he went down to a river and he got into a boat and he just kind of was floating there alongside the shore in this boat, was meditating. He had to get away from people that were disturbing him, so he's meditating, right?
Yeah.
And another boat comes along and bumps into his, and he's immediately filled with rage. How could they do this to me? Don't they know who I am, right?
Yeah. You threw off the Emperor's Groove.
Yes. So he got exactly. Yeah. So, dude, he gets super angry, loses his mind, opens his eyes, and realizes that it was just a boat that had came untied and floated down and bumped into him, and there was nobody there. The only person that was there that was him, and his reaction was just himself. So every time that we have a reaction that is that kind of like anger and stuff, we need to understand that it's just an empty boat. And we have full control over how we should feel about every situation. That's an ultimate power to not give somebody, is to not let them make you feel any kind of way that you don't want to feel.
That's where like Buddhism is like the wildest thing. Buddhism and like Taoism, they are such unique philosophies. Buddhism is kind of weird because it's supposed to be a philosophy, not a religion. There's not supposed to be any gods, but for some reason there are. Like everything gets corrupted along a far enough timeline. But if you look at some of like the
Zen Buddhism is a little bit different. It's got it's got that philosophical side that is, kind of, you see a lot of people referencing movies and things. That's a little bit more.
But even just the historical, like the Eight Noble Truths, I think it is, or the Four Noble Truths of the Eightfold Path. I can't remember. But like that life is pain. Is like one of like the ultimate truths. Like suffering happens. Suffering is going to happen, and like to get rid of desire is where you. So it's that old thing. Like they went to the Buddha and said, "I want happiness." It's like, well, get rid of want. That's desire. Get rid of I. That's ego, and all you're left with is happy. And it's such a unique look at things to when you are talking about it and you start looking at things from that Zen, that Buddhist perspective. It's like, man.
I was having some really bad anger management problems, and I feel like it had a lot to do with some of the stress and trauma from my last job.
Yeah.
So I was having a lot of anger issues, and so I really took a really like hard look at myself and tried to look into ways of controlling that, and kind of got interested into like the Eastern school of thought as far as that goes. And there's been some times where it has really helped me, and like I feel like it has really helped me to like better myself. You know what I mean? I'm achieving goals that I wanted to achieve. And it's really kind of like pushed me forward in a big way, and so it kind of makes me want to learn more about it, But I know that by doing the things that I've been doing, that the ultimate goal of giving up everything and just no desire, right?
Yep.
I do believe deep down that you would reach a state similar to nirvana by doing that, because desires do. And like I said here, I do believe that by leading a kind of like really pious Buddhist life would be a very fulfilling life to lead. I believe,
Yeah, because I've looked at like the what do they call them where the monks live, the monasteries, and it's like you look at the way they live, and it's very pleasant, and it seems desirable, and I kind of agree with you. Like desire is it creates stress, which creates suffering, and it's like all from this. It's hard to put into words from us.
I find myself wanting less
done.
and less material stuff also.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I don't find the delight in material things. Like I'm sitting here and I'm like, I have enough books now. I need to start putting my efforts and stuff into better things, I guess.
Experiences is one of those things. Like
exactly.
we recently left and went to Tennessee. Took the kids down there. And had a bunch of experiences. We came back. We bought, we had some souvenir type stuff, but it's really to like. That's where your memory is locked. You put on that shirt or you look at that thing and it's like, oh, I remember this, and then you can, think back to what happened. It's just a memory locker. It's a memory card for the experience is what a souvenir really is.
I was trying to buy weird things. I bought a luchador mask at my first Comic-Con.
That is hilarious. I've never been to a Comic-Con. Like I've kind of like, you have never been, dude. Like there's OhioCon, which I think is in January. What are they like?
Yeah. Okay, so...
And do you have to, like, love anime? Because, like, I like Death Note, okay. No, I like Attack on Titan, but, like...
Absolutely not, bro. So, Comic-Con is more... it's more of, like... Wonder Woman, Batman, Iron Man, the X-Men. It's more that type of stuff is more prevalent. But there's also a huge, that's what started it, I guess, but it's not even like about that anymore. There's a huge amount of people that it's any kind of real fandom, people that love anything for real.
Lord of the Rings,
Lord of the Rings, Doctor Who, Star Wars, Star Trek,
love Doctor Who,
just any kind of like major fandom, video game. There's a lot of, and so it's a big chance for people to dress up and they like do their cosplay, and they spend a lot of money on some of them, and some of them are very impressive. But the craziest thing is you go there and I come walking around the corner and I turn and I look around the corner, and sitting there at a table not 5 feet from me is Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer.
And
are you?
Yes.
Why?
He was sitting there signing autographs and shit, and he turns and he looks over.
Well, he was Batman.
Yeah, he was Batman. I was super excited, and he was like in Tombstone, so you know, people like any kind of. So he turns and he looks over at me and he smiles and nods his head, and I just did like the head nod back to him, and I was like, oh my god, I just totally head nodded Val Kilmer.
Isn't that like some of the most badass shit when you have that experience as opposed to like totally like fanboying out and like, oh my god, I need your autograph and let me get a picture.
Dude.
But when you've got that like side. So that was it. Man, it's not working the way I wanted it to, is it? Is it? Yeah, it is. Okay. Sorry, I couldn't see that it was fucking recording where I needed it to, because it's a little. I'm still new to this. Fuck off. That's it. That was the interview. You see where it cut off. It was getting to a really fucking neat spot. We talked. That was this Comic-Con thing, I think, and we talked about celebrities and shit like that for a little while and who we've met. And I don't even know, because I didn't listen to the whole thing. I listened to some of it, and I want to address something, but I don't know if we even got to the point where we talked about our paranormal experiences. Don't know if you got to hear that or not. Hopefully you did, because it was really cool. But I don't know. So, yep, that's the end. I'm not going to keep too much longer. This is probably going to be right at 3 hours long, depending on how long I ramble. The thing I wanted to address is I could hear myself breathing the entire time. I promise you I wasn't mouth breathing. I have a very large gauge septum ring, and I have, because of that, a very deviated septum. I work in a facility where I'm grinding iron parts all the time, so my nose, my nostrils, my sinuses are fucked up. It's just loud breathing all the time. Not struggling to breathe, it's just loud because it's so fucked up in there. So, just wanted to address that. I do apologize for all the noises being heard through my nose holes, but, yep, that's it. Thanks for listening, and, tune in for more. Okay, bye.